Hello! Okay, for those that watched chapter 1 and chapter 2, not last week, the previous week, yes, there is an extra save file. Let me explain. For anyone that missed it, I did chapter 3 last week, when I said on the schedule. However, I had some terrible Wi-Fi issues, so I decided that considering the fact that we quite literally lost half of the stream because it just crashed and it didn't notify me of said crash, I decided that I would unlist that stream and we would do chapter 3 again and do chapter 4 completely blind. It's also good in a way because for anyone that missed it, my voice was like desperately giving out on me towards like the end point, and even at the end point, like even before that, my voice was giving out. So my voice is fine now. We're good to go. I have an Ethernet cable, so my connection is great. My speed is amazing. I am absolutely fascinated by that. Oh yeah, we're good to go. We're good to start. But yeah, if you see me not react to certain things in chapter 3, it's because of that. I will answer the same as I did previously, just to ensure that chapter 4 ends up being like the way it should have been if we had played it normally last week. I also have water. Is that something else I forgot last week? I forgot to get water. But yeah. Okay, here we go. The sun is gone. I open my eyes, blinking in confusion. I've completely forgotten what had woken me up in the first place. I distinctly remember falling asleep to glittering stars and darkness. So, I'm surprised to see the moon still so high in the sky. And red. So much red. Scarlet bleeds to every corner of the sky. The light from its atmosphere bounces off the floorboards of Dove's room, casting everything in an ominous glow. I saw we had gone to bed late. I must not have been sleeping long. I stare at the full moon outside. My heart is pumping like it knows something my brain doesn't. I must be on edge from lack of sleep. But I don't feel tired. I feel like the moon's face is looking right at me, waiting with a patient grin. Like it can't wait to witness my reaction when I figure out the answer to the riddle it's given me. I feel my fur grow stiff. I swallow. It's morning. But why on earth was the... I jump 6 feet into the air when someone bangs on the door to Dove's bedroom. Out of instinct, I rush under the desk beside Dove's bed. I remember it clearly now. It was that exact banging noise that pulled me from my sleep in the first place. Dove suddenly appears before me and clamps a hand around my muzzle. I start to squeal, but she throws a finger in front of her mouth to silence me. The banging continues. I hear someone rattle the locked doorknob. Dove, open the door. Dove glances in the direction of the man calling for her. Just a moment, father. Dove's neutral answer is a stark contrast to my trembling form. Her gaze swings back to me, and before I know it, I'm being hauled off my feet. My immediate reaction is to thrash in Dove's arms. Is she about to offer me up to the witch? I try to whimper through the iron grip around my snoot, but she squeezes tighter. Shh! I freeze in her arms. My eyes are wide and full alert, and my chest expands rapidly from my frantic breathing. Dove offers no form of comfort. Instead, she spares me one last glance before she throws me into darkness. I land on plush blankets with a small bounce and a slight yelp. I see a small glimpse of Dove staring down at me before she closes the gap between the thick curtains of her canopied bed and extinguishes all of the light. It's like I've suddenly been thrown into a pit. My ears twitch at every subtle noise. The scent of wilting lilacs floods my senses. It's as if Doe sleeps with decaying flowers in her pillowcase every night. My heavy breathing sounds so loud in the darkness. I try to tame it as best as I can, and fear that it can be heard beyond the curtains that shroud me. I hear Dove's bare feet drag along the wooden floor, then a click, then a creak, then heavy footsteps enter the room. My bones nearly jump out of my skin from the sound of lightning that breaks through the quiet. Wasn't it clear just a moment ago? I swallow hard. New noises start to appear out of nowhere. Wind howls outside, so loud it's like ghosts humming in unison right outside the window, crying to be let in. Those bed curtains begin to ripple, revealing slivers of red light. I can't find Babel anywhere. My entire body tenses once footsteps land right in front of me. The curtain flicker again. Then all I can see is him. You wouldn't happen to know where they are, would you? Doe's father stares down at her from the tip of his nose. His hands are crossed behind his back. Did you check the rooftop garden? Yes. The kitchen? Yes. Under the table, perhaps? Dove. Enough of your games. The witch closes his eyes and rubs the bridge of his nose. Find that bloody ghost, or I'll find a replacement. Is that a threat? Yes, father. When he opens his eyes again, I see his eyes catch on to something I can't see. The tension in the room suddenly rises. Wait, the blanket on the floor. Fear begins to claw its way up my throat, threatening to spill out in a cry. The witch's eyes drag upwards to Dove, then to the walls. He begins to search around the room. Y'all, are we really simping for the fucking father? We're really doing that? I mean, I get it, but seriously. I stop breathing. The sound of the storm becomes muffled for a moment, amplifying the sound of every creak and heartbeat inside the house. A noise in the darkness of Doe's bed makes me go completely still. It sounds like wood knocking together, and by the looks of it, I'm not the only one that's heard it. The witch stares directly into the dark between the curtains. My urge to stay hidden isn't shared, it seems. Red eyes peer right at me. Every beat of my heart feels like an eternity passing by. Then he looks away. I think it's fair to consider myself the biggest fool of all time, considering where I've landed myself, but I'm not foolish enough to let out a breath of relief just yet. Ah, right. Just one more thing. The witch reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small black pouch with dots of silver on it. I asked a sister to craft a small gift for you. I see him place the pouch in Dove's tiny hand. Then I hear the clinking of delicate metal. Thank you. The witch nods, then turns and makes his way out, finally disappearing from my view. Now go find Babel for me. I have much to do. Dove's door slams closed. Whatever hides with me rattles again from the vibrations of the door, and I take that as my cue to launch myself out from the canopy. I tumble out from the dark curtains and slap right into a pile of books, sending me into a dizzying heap on the floor. Once the ache in my body wanes, I shake my head to get my bearings back. Dove's room was already a mess, but now it looks like a hurricane has swept through it. Stacks of books have been shoved around and knocked over. The furniture has been pulled away from the walls and left askew. Loose sheets of paper cover huge sections of the floor, leaving little paths of clear floorboards left to walk on. How on earth did I sleep while she made this mess? I finally look for Dove and find her standing by the window. Rain beats violently against the glass panes. The storm outside rages in full force, and the temperature in the manor has dropped significantly since yesterday. Dove holds something up close to her face that reflects the bright white of the lightning outside. A bracelet. Tiny charms hang from the thin silver chain. A rose, a sun, a moon, and a heart. Dove seems completely enamored by it in a way I've never seen before. Pretty. I stare, captured by the sight of her. Warm colors her pale cheeks, and a new brightness softens her eyes. My heart tightens. I've forgotten, or maybe I keep refusing to acknowledge it because I've had to rely on her confidence so much. But Dove is just a child, just like me. She's unsettling and abrasive, yet when I see her like this, or when I see her get excited over something, I want to look at her up close. Maybe to see whether I'm hallucinating or not. Or maybe because Dove burns like a star. Her face glows a blinding light and her hair is the dark expanse that cradles it. Before Dove, I've only ever known stars far from within my reach. Dove moves away from the window to the desk beside her bed. She sets the black pouch down, then places the bracelet on it like a display. She seems to like it a lot. Does she not want to wear it? Her attention has already moved on from it, however. Now, what to do? Dove twirls around and faces me with her hands on her hips. There's no babble to find. I perk up and my ears stand up straight. But there are other ghosts to find. Once Dove gives the clear for us to move out of her room, the first thing I notice is how different the house has become once again. Like when I had first arrived, it's cold and threatening. All of Dove's efforts to make the mansion more homely seem to have been undone, as though it were nothing but an illusion spell. Dust kicks the floor, spiders crawl on webs in dark corners, and the windows cast red patches of light that do little to brighten its surroundings. I lead the way on cautious paws, vaguely remembering the way to the study. When we finally get there, I realize there's a problem. The study is now occupied. I peek through a crack in the door, and the witch busies himself with grinding herbs in a mortar. To his side, I see a floating quill pen moving on its own, jotting down notes he mutters under his breath while he twists the pestle. I will add, I decided to turn off the quick choice events because when I did this chapter previously, there was one choice that I panicked so hard that I almost ran out of time to choose. So I decided, for ease of mind, to turn it off. Also because, since I want to make sure everything is the same as previously, that way if I don't remember, I have time to remember what I originally had chosen. I look under the desk he works at and spot the chest with the ghost remains peering out of the shadows. The day after Babel left, Dove had returned to the study to put the chest back in its place. I didn't anticipate sharing this with its owner so soon, so the thought of taking the chest didn't cross my mind. Dove hovers above me and takes a glimpse inside as well. Her expression turns green with shock. Wait, you're not thinking of getting the rest of the ghost's belongings, are you? I nod eagerly. Her eyes grow wide. Was Pavel not enough? I blink. What's wrong now? My brows pinch together. I shake my head and hear Dove's breath hitch. I look back to the chest. We can't just stop at one. Out of the corner of my eye, I see Dove take a step back and twist my head to look at her again. Her hands clutch around the skirt of her nightgown. She looks at me, conflicted. Not knowing how else to convince her, I slowly walk towards her. Dove stiffens as I approach her. I pause right before her and she looks down at me in anticipation. I blink at her, then I brush my body against her legs. Dove gasps above me. I push against her and curl my tail around her ankles. Dove stands as still as a statue as I run my fur along her legs, causing her to stumble slightly from the force she didn't expect me to use. After I finish circling her, I look up at her with bright eyes in hopes that this time I can get her to put her face in me. Dove peers down at me with a blush on her cheeks before closing her eyes and taking a deep breath. She then pushes past me and enters the study. Father, water is dripping from the ceiling of the library. What? Hells, did the books get wet? Hurried footsteps make their way to the door, and I quickly scurry into the shadows to hide. The witch stomps out of the study with Dove hot on his heels. She casts a quick glance at where I skulked before they both disappear down the hall. I waste no time running into the study. Now it's my turn. I'm breathing hard when I make my way back into Dove's bedroom. The second I shut the door with my back paw, I spit out the ghost belongings from my mouth and wipe my tongue on the fur of my arm. I look at the pouch, bundle of hair and bone on the floor. Oh gods, I hope that wasn't disrespectful. I twist my head to search around the room. Dove hasn't returned yet. Should I try to look for her? Or should I just burn this in one go? A knot forms in the pit of my stomach at the thought. No, Dove needs to be the one that does it. Feeling resolved, I pick up the artifacts with my teeth again and look around for somewhere to hide them. My eyes land on my quilt on the floor and I pad over to it. I dig my nose under a corner to flip it over, then gently place the objects flat on the ground before I flip the corner back over them. That's inconspicuous enough for now, I suppose. Hopefully by now the witch has returned to his study and will remain there busy with whatever he was doing, so I can go find one of the ghosts. I rarely underestimated how easy it would be to find the other ghosts. Babel, like the hallway ghosts, seemed to have some semblance of a pattern. But the rest, well, considering how little I know about them, they are proving to be much more difficult to pin down. I feel like I should have these nonsense hallways memorized by now, but I still find myself getting dizzy from walking around them in circles. I let out a huff in frustration as I quietly survey a hall from around a corner, only to find nothing once more. Like, my voice is like catching in my throat. 1 second. Stupid ghost! A voice yells from down the hall, and my heart all but leaps out of my chest. You must really like the feeling of falling. Do I have to send you flying again for you to learn how to stay out of my way? I don't recognize the voice, but the sound of dragging that follows it is awfully familiar. Grell. I quickly spin around and... Well now. Who might you be? The air in my lungs feels like it's been punched out of me. A figure stands before me and looks down at me like a cat that enjoys playing with its food before it eats it. His eyes are wide and his smug grin is feral. Does Dove have a brother? Because this boy looks just like her. The only difference is much of dark markings around his blood-red eyes. It can't be. There's another witch here? You're not like the other pets that she's tried to keep. The boy circles around my petrified form like a predator. Down the hall, I catch sight of Grell disappearing around a corner. I let out an internal cry, seeing the opportunity to catch it slip away from me. The child steps in front of me once again, blocking the way. I'm not a fan of intruders. He glances behind me. But fortunately for you, she is of a different opinion. My ears perk up at the sound of feet slapping on wood. A white gown takes over my vision as Dove skids to a stop in front of me. Her wild hair flutters like a delicate feathers with the heavy breaths she makes. What are you doing? The boy grins and crosses his arms behind his back. Oh, nothing. I was just... The boy's eyes cut to me hiding behind those skirts. His gaze is sharp like a knife. Saying hello. Dove's hands curl into fists. Just hello? The child chuckles. Well, it's far too early to say goodbye, isn't it? It seems we've learned in something quite interesting this time. I swallow. We? And the blood caps seem to be blooming well from the last one, so I have no need for this one. He narrows his eyes at me. Yet. I can see Dove go rigid. The boy bends to the waist to see me better, but she steps in front of me to block his view. My, so protective of your new little pet, aren't you? He leans back again and retreats a step. Very well, he's a special one, I suppose. The glint in his eyes makes me feel completely exposed. I can't wait to see how long this one lasts. Dove seems to take that as a sign to hightail it away from this boy as she sweeps me off the ground and crushes me against her chest. Stay away from him. As Dove carries me away, I keep eye contact with the boy, who maintains his sly smirk and watches the distance grow between us. No need to tell me twice. Just before we round a corner, I see the boy suddenly stumble forward and break into a violent cough. Dove's pace falters for a moment, but she manages to speed up to get us away faster. Dove has not spoken another word to me since we ran away from the boy in the hallway. Logically, that makes sense. I'm not human after all. But that hasn't really stopped her from doing it anyways. I still have yet to wrap my mind over the encounter with someone new. Someone who is a witch. I think some of Dove's stress is rubbing off on me. Dove has always been the most composed between us, so to see her reacting so angsty has me incredibly on edge. Anything that worries her worries me even more. Dove sits where I now expect her to be most of the time, on the floor. I guess it shouldn't be surprising that the little side table she had previously repaired has fallen apart once again. Her solution to get it standing again is to slather it with thick globs of glue and wrap even more twine around it. This plan is not working as well as it did the first time. Oh, honey. I can see Dove lose her patience with every new wrap around the broken wood with twine. I count every new impatient twirl Dove makes with the twine. 21, 22, 23. Oh, the twine ran out. Dove stares at the empty roll with a stunned expression. I feel anxious looking at her. Did she think it would go on forever? A shadow falls over her face. I brace myself. Dove shoots to her feet with the table in her hands and smashes it to pieces on the floor. I narrowly avoid the splinters of wood flying towards me. Dove stands up, panting and staring at the mess she's created. That stupid old... The broken leg of the side table hangs loosely in her hand, but not for long. Why must I always have to fix everything by myself? Her fingers wrap around it tightly, then without warning she throws it with all her might at the wall covered in mirrors. I wince, and my ears flatten at the sound of glass shattering and screeching. Dove hands fly to her ears to smother the screams that come from the broken mirrors. She pinches her eyes together before opening them to throw a smoldering glare at the reflected shards. Quiet! I've never seen Dove lose her temper like this. Somehow, I can almost completely ignore whatever a nurse had created that screaming, which had quickly died down after Dove's scolding, in favor of watching her pace a circle onto the floor. The more time I spend with Dove, the more she gives me with the side of her I've never seen before. At this point, I could fill a room of portraits, displaying all of her complexities. Dove terrifies me so much, but at some point, the fear I felt for her changed from the kind that makes me want to run for the hills, to the kind that makes me want to stay and see what happens. What do I do? What do I do? Dove knows on her thumbnail as she paces back and forth. A deep wrinkle forms between her brows by the time she finally slows to a halt. Dove stops chewing on her nail and looks down on me. My eyes widen when I see the face she wears. I don't want him to take you too. I see tears line Dove's eyes and my heart sinks. Yeah, poor baby. Oh, honey. She sniffles and wipes her face with the sleeve of her gown. The fear on her face disappears when she brings her arms back down. In its place is a fiery determination. Dove turns out of the room, leaving the dining room looking far more chaotic than when we had first arrived. Something about the sight makes my heart start to race. This whole time, I've been searching for any little crack in the wall that will lead to my freedom. Maybe I've been trying to break open the wrong thing. Dove makes her way to the supply closet in the hallway again. She yanks it open with both hands and hunches down to dig for something. Her eyes light up when she finally finds what she's looking for. I hear the sound of glass rattling. I brush against her side and look at what she's found. Dove takes out a jar with what appears to be glass beads and charms. I tilt my head curiously. She retrieves a couple more items from the closet before we make the journey back to her bedroom. The moment we reach Dove's room, she makes her way to the clearest spot to sit on the floor and faces her back to me. I startle when I feel a lump underneath my blanket as I settle into it. Alright, the ghosts. I was so close to getting to Grell, but I think navigating the halls would be much more perilous with a strange boy roaming around. I don't know what his relationship with Dove is, but it's clear they're related. And honestly, I can't say I'm itching to learn more about him. The witch and the boy. Oh, CP. The witch and the boy. All I need to know is that I should stay clear whenever they're near. I look to see what Dove is doing. She seems to be completely immersed in whatever she's doing. My eyes roam around the room. I spot a random book that had been thrown open, probably when Dove had decided to redecorate. Pulling myself forward on my paws, I scoot up to it and trickle over the words on the open pages. A book on toxic plants? A yawn forces my jaws open. I blink at the drawings on the page. Oh. I think I saw that flower on the rooftop garden. Done! My head snaps up. I fell asleep. The gentle tap of rain against the window is the first thing I notice as my senses come back to me from the fog of sleep. My head turns to look outside. Surrounded by gray storm clouds, the room continues to hold watch over the manor from the exact same spot as earlier. Everything about this place feels like I'm stuck in a nightmare. Maybe I'm actually still at home right now, being carried to bed by my grandmother, and this is all just a bad dream? No, I know better. In a world like this, it's harder to imagine days where you're not inconvenienced by monsters. A shuffling sound draws my eyes away from the window. I look over at Dove and watch as her back straightens. She stands and makes her way over to me, holding something in her hands. She kneels in front of me, looking nervously at her closed palms before opening them. The shadows from the storm clouds roll around the room like the reflections of waves on the ocean floor. Beams of moonlight break through the bounds of the object that hangs from Dove's fingers. It's a necklace, messily arranged on a red string with mismatched glass beads that hug a small leaf ornament found on a shiny silver medal. The brightness of it contests the small smile Dove wears as she presents it to me. Red adorns her pale cheeks and forehead, sticking out so darkly she almost looks feverish. She sucks in a deep breath. Another deep breath. I can't do magic yet. She lowers her head, avoiding my gaze. But this will help protect you. I stare at Dove dumbfounded. My heart beats hard in my chest. Dove's fingers tremble around the necklace she had made for me. For me? But what about her? Who protects you, Dove? I glance behind her, besides the lock on your door. My eyes start to burn as I look back at her. She finally meets my gaze, waiting for my response. We are obviously accepting the necklace. I did it the first time, we're doing it again. Because this has the cutest CG I have seen so far. I'm probably the only one we're gonna see that's this fucking cute, knowing how this game is. The necklace looks so fragile. I wonder what was running through her head as she arranged every bead. Did she agonize over the colors, the shapes? If I've learned anything about Dove, it's that she seems to work hard at whatever she does, even if she's not that good at it. I study the necklace, trying to imagine every decision she had made. Actually, now that I look at it, the charm she put on the necklace almost looks like a basil leaf. Is that simply coincidence? I slowly rise from the floor and step closer to Dove. She watches me anxiously and grips the necklace with white knuckles. I hold her blue eyes in mine. Then I lower my head towards her. I hear Dove breathe a sigh of relief. I close my eyes as she carefully brings the necklace over my head and places it around my neck. Somehow, the weight of the necklace helps make me feel less vulnerable. Dove gives me a small smile and quickly pulls her hands back to her lap. The necklace holds no magic, but if Dove believes this can keep me safe, I want to believe her too. You're so cute! A loud noise bolts me awake. A quick glance at the window shows calamitous storm clouds that roar and light up with branches of lightning. When I first heard his, I got full on jump scared. I was not expecting to hear like actual like singing. Rain drums against the window violently and wind makes the frame tremble. Gonna lower the volume a little bit for this. I can barely tell what time it is anymore. Loud music disrupts my thoughts. The song playing is scratchy and reverberates through the walls. I'm surprised I don't tremble from how thunderous it is. My ears press flat and I reach my paws up to dampen the blaring noise further. Loud thumps and a voice accompany the music. I watch the door and consider double-checking to see if it's locked. Fuck! Fuck's sake! My blood thunders in my ears. What on earth was going on? Laying so exposed on the floor makes my skin crawl. The air feels uncomfortably warm and damp. The heat makes everything in my vision shimmer like infernal illusions. I swallow and search for Dove in the dark. Abnormal as she is, I can't imagine anyone being able to sleep in these conditions. When my ears pick up the sound of tapping, I know my suspicions are correct. I find Dove kneeling at the front of her bed. The sight of slightly open curtains behind her catches me off guard. It's heavily shadowed, but I think it looks like something is moving inside of the canopy. Fear pulls my gaze away. Yeah, what the fuck is in there? That's genuine question, my eye. I don't know what the fuck that is. Maybe we find out in chapter 4. If we find out in chapter 4, I think I might scream. I focus on what Dove is doing. The clouds part just enough to let a streak of red into the bedroom. The sight behind Dove makes my heart rate jump. Rotting limbs and branches of hands manifest out of the shadows. Not approaching, just lurking, and for some reason, they're very vocal tonight. Gurgling growls, strained groans, and the sound of grinding glass grow louder and louder, as if competing against the other noises that violate the quiet of the night. My paw taps around my blanket until it finds a small lump. They're all gathered here. My eyes flick to Dove and widen when I see what she fiddles with. In Dove's hands is a cross, or at least something crudely shaped to look like one. I'm unnerved by the sight of it. Dove tightly crosses together splintered wood with wires and string. She ties the wood together so tightly that chunks break off and litter the floor. It looks like one of the crosses in the graveyard outside. The only question is, who is it intended for? The sound of the ghosts have started to muffle the loud music. I notice Dove's stiff expression start to melt into something slightly more serene. My paw moves off the lump. Now is not a good time. My arms cross and I rest my head on them to watch Dove work. I don't think I will be able to go back to sleep. I can't tell how much time has passed. The light of the moon shining into Dove's room has become our daylight as much as our moonlight. Whether it is truly day or night, it's impossible for me to tell. A couple of candles light up the room. I suppose all there is left to do is convince our brains that it's the time to be awake. Dove sits at the window, completely focused on watching the trees like she's searching for something. She has the window opened, allowing a cool breeze to blow in. When she notices me watching her, she pulls the window closed and stands. Ready to start the day? No, but I can't sleep to get away from a nightmare. I've grown even more conscious of each second that passes ever since the witch and the boy have appeared. It feels like it's all counting down to something I cannot possibly predict. To waste time, sitting around doing nothing, feels like a death sentence. I stand, perked up and ready to go. She looks down at me. We won't get in the way today. My head tilts in confusion. But Dove offers no explanation and simply makes her way out of the room. I slowly trail after her. Which he? We failed to find any ghosts so far today. I had even looked for the big grandfather clock in the hallway to try to see what time it was, but its hands had stopped moving. I sulked on the kitchen floor while Dove sits nearby, half-heartedly trying to mend the mess I've made of the kitchen wall. Her hands make slow and untrained brushstrokes, attempting to mimic the designs of the wallpaper in the space where my claws had torn through. I can see her mood drop with every shaky line and every uncontrolled bristle mark. She pulls her hand back to compare her clumsy florid paintings to the wallpaper, and her patience finally snaps. Dove throws the paintbrush onto the floor in resignation. Right as it meets the floor, I flinch. Dove doesn't. We both turn our heads toward the hallway. A coil of stress unravels in my gut. Is it the witch? The boy? Or is it a ghost? Dove doesn't take the time to weigh the odds like I do. Instead, she shoots up and goes to investigate. I steady my breathing and chase after her. I almost gag at what we find on the floor of the hallway. Wind howls as it creeps in through a shattered window. The corpse of a crow lays in a mangled and bloody heap before us. The most ominous detail is its lack of a head. Dove crouches down and gives it a nudge with an unreadable expression. I guess we should clean it up? No, wait, how did this even get here? Is this a regular occurrence around here as well? I don't have time to piece together a logical answer, because we hear another crash down the hall. You fucking... So not... Yeah, no. Oh. You're so lucky you're a moderator. We leave the bird as it is and track down the new noise. The same sight greets us once again. Broken window, dead, headless bird. Did we take a wrong turn and come back to the same hallway? I look up at Dove, searching for answers on her face. Her unreadable expression has started to crack, but it only reveals her own bewilderment. It sounds like every window in the house has just exploded, all the way down towards Dove's room. I follow Dove's hurried steps further into the mansion. Every new dead crow we pass instills new panic in me. We don't bother inspecting each one. They're all the same. Dove rushes past each broken window with quick glances and hisses every time she steps on a shard of glass. The last crow we find sits near the door to Dove's room. We're both breathing heavily as we finally take a moment to pause. The dead crow lays unmoving in a splattered pool of blood. The sight makes my body pulse with anxiety, which only feels heightened paired with a lack of sleep. I don't need to look for an explanation anymore. The signs of a bad omen could not be clearer. My legs hug me up unsteadily. Dove tries to catch her breath as she observes the bird, followed by the red sky beyond the now broken window. A frown tucks her mouth down, and I can see sweat drip down onto the side of her face. We both flinch at the sound of a slight tap coming from inside her room. The fur along my spine bristles. I slowly inch forward, and Dove leaps behind me. The ghost in Dove's room catches me by surprise. I hear Dove's breath hitch when she spots it by her window. Its beak taps against the glass. Then the window creaks open. Oh God, Dove didn't lock it earlier. I watch in horror as Grill's limbs start to crawl up the seat of the window. No! Dove bursts forward with her hands outstretched, but she stops just short of touching the ghost. Her hands tremble with hesitation. I can barely breathe. Grill twists its head, as if to look at Dove one last time, before it finally throws itself out the window. Dove breaks out of her daze and surges ahead again, but she's too late. Her fingers barely even reach the wispy strings that protrude from Grill's long arms, as it disappears to the ground below. She stumbles hard onto the window seat, bruising her knees. The sickly sound of crunching bones and splattering flesh reaches our ears. Dove gasps sharply. My eyes are wide and I feel bile start to rise from my stomach. I approach the window with my heart threatening to explode off my chest. Dove lifts herself and peers out the window. Her body goes stiff with dread. I let out a shuddering breath, then join her on the bench. When I look down, my stomach Hold on. When I look down, my stomach clenches. Grill makes broken wheezes where it lays. Its limbs are twisted, and its carnage paints the grass from where its head had crashed against the hard earth. I stare, frozen with morbid curiosity as his legs twitch in an effort to get up again. Can't die if you're already dead. But you can suffer. Dove stumbles back from the window, no longer able to digest the sight of Grell's state of agony. Her feet tangle in my blanket and she falls backward onto her rear. She whimpers from the ache, then blinks watery eyes at something. My eyes follow her line of sight and... Oh. A small bone sits uncovered on the floor. The tag attached to it with Grell's name written on it quivers from the wind coming in through the window. I jump down from the window. Dove's face darkens and she starts moving quickly. I press against the wall, trying to not get in the way as she paces around the room gathering things. She grabs a small vial from a drawer, my empty metal dishes, a lit candle, and finally, Grell's bone. She kneels on the floor, shoving books and loose papers out of her way before setting down her materials. She throws the bone into the bowl and pours the liquid, which I'm assuming is some kind of oil, until it completely saturates it. I've only noticed now, but I think the bone might be one of the arm bones. And judging by its size and length, it does not belong to an adult. Dove grabs the candle and fixes her eyes on the bones before finally committing to the next step. Her jaw clenches. This whole time, you've only just wished to return home. How lucky you are. You do not belong here. Dove tips the candle into the dish and the bone erupts in flames. Grell's groans of pain echo in the silence. The bone does not burn easily. I can see Dove's lack of patience as her fingers crawl into her palms. In the fire I can see the small bone fracture and hear it pops from the heat. The white bone chars into gray, then black. Its texture flakes and sizzles. Dove decides she's waited long enough. Without hesitation she slams the other metal bowl over the flame and smothers it. When she's confident the fire has been put out, she lifts the lid. Smoke billows from the bowl, causing Dove to wave her hands and cough. The smoke escapes out the window. She takes one look at the burned bone before she dumps the crumbling remains on the floor. Dove takes a deep breath. Then she starts smashing the bone with the flat bottom of the bowl. My throat tightens and my ears fall from the sound of Dove crushing the bone. She grips the bowl with both hands, raises her arms, and brings it down again and again. The loud clanging makes me cringe back. I hear something that resembles the ring of wind chimes, but Dove does not stop. I only watch in terror as Dove continues her beastly display. She only stops when her arms have finally turned numb and the bowl slips out of her fingers. Wind moves to the ashes on the floor in a spiral. Dove bends heavily. Her eyes are completely dull. Silence fills the air. I hop onto the window seat. I know what I will see before I look down. Nothing. Not a trace of Grell remains. The soft gale brushes against my fur. I look up. The moon had seen it all. It glares down upon us, not in disgust. But in glee. Dove barely speaks the next day. But the witch once again disrupts the night with loud sounds from his phonograph. Sometimes it sounds like he's conversing with someone. At first, I thought I would hear the voice of the boy from the hallway responding to him, but it's someone completely else. I've started to notice the witch's patterns. Dove must be very familiar with it. Every morning it's like she can read the signs that will tell her what the witch will be doing for the day. I wonder if the signs apply for the boy as well. On the next quiet day, we search the manor for the other two ghosts. Their remains stay hidden under my blanket. When they refuse to show themselves, we spend the rest of our day in the library, melting from the humidity that not even the ceaseless rain can dampen. Dove focuses on her desk, furiously scratching away at notes and drawings. I didn't notice the difference when Babel had left, but Grell's disappearance feels like it's widened the crack it had started. And Dove? She's been incredibly on edge since the witch returned. How long has it been since likeness was able to find its way onto her face? A gnawing feeling makes me wonder if I'm partly to blame. Dove pulls at her hair and blows out an irritated sigh. Her hands resentfully push away her work and she stands. I'm tired. I lift myself up, ready to follow her back to her room. Then I hear the sound of a book hitting the floor. I go still and slowly turn my head to see a book has landed right beside me. A pale hand picks it up and I startle, not noticing Dove had walked over. I watch her as she lifts the book and shoves it back into place on the shelf. Her eyes flicker to something before she is once again moving away. My heart starts to beat anxiously. I take a peek in the same direction, and my eyes fix onto the window at the back of the library, and the decayed foot that climbs the shelf behind me in the reflection of the glass. Ugh. This time, I hear a familiar drag when we step out into the hallway. It almost brings me comfort. I've learned there are people to be far more afraid of in this house. The bright apparition of the hallway ghost sweeps towards us. Her presence is like confirmation that the day has turned to night, and I cling to that. I let out a yawn and move out of the ghost's way. Dove watches her pass with the eyes of a hawk. Her neck twists as she follows the ghost's movements until it fades into the shadows. Her gaze lingers where it disappears. When she finally turns back, she blinks in surprise. Oh boy, okay. I snap my head around and find Odette standing right in front of Dove. One of the ghost's shadowy hands rises to its cracked face. Its fingers fold in a gesture like it's telling Dove to be quiet. Then its arms shoot out towards Dove. Dove's screams ring down the hallway. My ears go completely limp as I balk at the sight of Dove getting dragged away. Let go! Tendrils of phantom arms wrap around Dove's torso. Smoke rises from the touch between her and the ghost, forcing a loud shriek from Dove. I never suspected Odette to ever do something like this to Dove. I thought they would never do anything to hurt Dove, so why was it doing this? Dove's feet kick and I try to find purchase on the floor, oh my god, hold on. Dove's feet kick and try to find purchase on the floor, but they only slip out from under her. Stop it! The ghost continues to drag her down the hallway. I snap out of my shock and chase after Dove and the ghost. I growl and bare my teeth at the ghost, but it makes no difference. How do I get it to let go? Panic starts to fill me. Oh fuck, what did I originally choose? I tried to bite the ghost. I tried to bite the ghost. Yes, because I reasoned with myself that if I did this, I could hurt her. And I don't want to hurt her. I don't give myself time to hesitate, and I sink my teeth into this ghost's skirt. A fiery sensation explodes in my mouth. My throat makes a cry as I violently pull away. I heave onto the floor and taste iron. Phantom burn. Oh god, I have to help Dove. Only one solution comes to mind. Odette's remains. I turn tail and bolt down the hallway. Dove's cries carry down the corridor as if in chase of me. I skid around corners and make my way to Dove's room at full speed. It seems I've gotten quite good at walking on all fours. I break into a stop. I look around the dark hallway, my breath coming out in shallow puffs. Am I hearing things? My body feels overly warm under my fur. Then I hear it again. I jump off the floor and spin around, my fur stands prickled from fright. Suspended in the air is a crow. Part of one, at least. Unlike the crows from a couple days ago, this one seems to be missing its body. Part of its spine protrudes from where its rotting flesh has been torn from its torso. It floats high in the air, hidden in the shadows of the ceiling, and screeches like a siren. Odette! I wince back from the shrill voice that the head creates. Suddenly, it's not the only one screaming bloody murder. Odette! 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 I sprint away from the screams, but they follow me down the hallway. At every new step I take, more and more floating heads manifest from the shadows and pierce my ears with their cries. My eyes are wide with panic, and my skull rattles. The path before me distorts, twisting into specially curated hell where all I can do is run without a shred of respite. The fur around my ears starts to feel damp. Warm liquid runs down the side of my face. I see some of it drip onto the floor. Blood. I whimper as I continue to race towards Dove's room. When I finally reach it, I practically tumble into the room. I waste no time tossing the blanket on the floor outside. All that is left is is a pouch with Odette's name and a lock of hair. I grab the pouch, take a deep breath, and return to the hallway. I follow the smell of wilting lilacs and burning parchment to find Dove again. The screeches of the crow heads in the hallway had muffled the all other sounds and left my ears ringing. Dove's scent leads me to the kitchen. Right as Odette attempts to take Dove out through the door that is no longer there, I watch as Odette bumps into the wall where the kitchen door used to be, the one I had used to enter this nightmarish place all those days ago. Dove sobs weakly from the burns. When she sees me, her eyes grow watery again. I immediately drop the pouch from my mouth to rush to Dove. My lips curl back, baring my teeth, and I jump off the ground and latch onto one of Odette's arms. My eyes sting from the pain that surges through me, but I do not let go. This is nothing compared to what you did to Dove. I clamp my jaws even tighter, then Odette starts to howl. Even when the ghost's arms untangle from Dove's body, I do not let go. The ghost thrashes its arms, trying to throw me off. It hurls my body against the wall, but I only hold on tighter. I whimper and growl in stubborn refusal. Aren't you supposed to care for Dove? You hurt her! I dig my teeth in further, now out of anger. Then I hear that sound. Wind chimes. I fall onto the ground hard. My entire body aches. I gag and hack out a small amount of blood onto the floor. With blurry eyes, I look for Odette. She's completely gone. I search for Dove, and my eyes squint at the sight of fire coming from the hearse. Beside it, Dove kneels simply against the wall, staring at her hands. Fingernails burn much easier than bones. I shiver. I guess it forgot. It didn't end well the first time it tried to take me away. I'm still trying to catch my breath when Dove rises. As she slowly drags herself out of the kitchen, I stumbled after her as well. My whole body is tense as I watch Dove push into the study. I stay in the hallway, crushed against the wall to stay out of sight. Father, I hear a tired groan from someone just waking up. Has the witch been asleep this entire time? Ugh, what? Well, those look nasty. Was it that old hag again? Foolish thing. Here, put this on the burns. Thank you. I can hear Dove start to shuffle out of the room. Oh yes. Is your doggy still alive? My heart stops. How? He knows about me? Tension fills the air. It's so sick that it sticks to me like honey. I barely breathe. The sound of my heart thunders in my ears. Don't touch him. Dove's voice comes out hard. The witch laughs in response. Come now, darling. I'm sure you won't even remember this one after your mother returns. What? I hear stomping and draw back away from the sound. Dove bursts out of the study, eyes darting around until she finds me crouching in the dark with my tail between my legs. She bends down and gathers me into her arms, wincing from the burns all over her upper body, then quickly returns back to her room. It's dead quiet back in Dove's room, save for the soft pitter-patter of rain against the window. Dove sits on the floor with a single candle sitting on a brass holder beside her. When she starts unbuttoning her nightgown, my eyes turn into saucers and I stand my head away from her. I try to distract myself by staring at anything else around the room, but I'm overly conscious of the sounds of rustling clothing and Dove's quiet whimpers. I see pale skin from the corner of my eye, and bright red marks. I do a double take and suck in her breath at the damage Odette had done to Dove. Phantom burns cross along the expanse of her back, arms, and neck. I see her struggle to apply ointment to the burns on her back and stand up from the floor. But to do what exactly? Help her? My claws curl into the blanket. I bow my head, and then curl into a ball facing away from Dove. Every time I hear her sniffle and suck in a watery breath, I have to hold back my own whine. The next time I wake up, it's to smoke. Something stale and acrid invades my nose and forces me out of my slumber. Then the feeling of cold, damp fur forces me awake. My eyes snap open. Gray smoke curls into the room from the hallway. A fire? The offensive odor that fills the room is not from a house fire, however. Yeah, it's a haunted happy house. Exactly. So glad we all understand it's a great place. It stings my eyes and I feel tiny shocks where trendles trail towards me. I can feel rain hitting me. The blanket I lay on is soaked with water. I turn my attention towards the window, then jump up to my feet. Strong gales of wind push into the room, carrying the heavy rainstorm in with it. Rain floods the floorboards and ripples from every drop that cascades in from outside. Dove stands at the wide open window, holding onto the slick frames and racing out in panic pants. Her nightgown is drenched and her pitch-black hair clings to her face and back. Her body trembles and holds unsteadily against the strong winds that slam into her. She does not look afraid in the slightest. In fact, as she looks out of the southern sky, her white eyes and flesh-cold cheeks make her look more alive than ever. She looks down at the ground. I wonder what Wells thought of when he fell. Did he have time to think of anything at all? My heart races. Rain beats against my face and gets in my eyes. I wonder what his real name was, and if someone out there is still looking for him? She looks back up at the gray clouds. Babel kept taking care of the gardens and filling the flower vases. I didn't know why it had to. Rel wanted to leave. I didn't know why it had to. But Dad wanted to take me away from here. Dove lets out a bitter laugh. I didn't even know why. She goes quiet. A frown appears on her face. Siri. Her face goes blank. Now you're more free than I'll ever be. Dove turns away from the window and starts to climb down. I watch in horror as her foot slips from the rain-slicked windowsill. I howl and grab the back of Dove's dress before she can fall. I roll my weight back and Dove stumbles backwards into the room. She shrieks when she lands on the floor, right on her burns from the previous day. Violent knocking startles me. Dove! I recoil sharply when the witch breaks down Dove's door and strides into the room. His steps make the floor quake. The second he spots Dove crouching on the floor, he drops down to her level and pulls her into her arms. It's okay, I've got you. You're safe. The smell of smoke comes off of him so strongly I cringe back. The witch strokes Dove's hair and whispers soothing words to his daughter. It would be a warm display, if not for the way Dove's entire body goes still. Her body does not move. I don't even see her breathing. Her eyes are completely hollow. The only move I see her make is her eyes flickering down to something on the floor. Her fingers twitch, and they start reaching for the candle holder beside them. Dread twists my gut. I watch with terror as Dove's fingers curl around the brass object, but before anything can happen, the witch scoops up his young daughter, and the candle holder slips out of her hand. The witch stands and starts to carry her out. Let's clean those, shall we? After the two of them leave, I pad over to the windows and swing the doors closed to stop any more rain from coming in. I can't lock it myself, so this will have to do. Then I look at the state of the bedroom door. The frame of the door and the locking mechanism hang in splinters. Yeah. Yeah. The storm continues to roar outside. I stand alone in the garden, soaked to the bone. All around me is decay. Without Babel standing to keep everything alive, all the flowers and plants have started to wither. The only thing left standing still is a rose bush. But even time is running out for it. Its petals have become a stark white. A snap makes my ear twitch. I watch silently as a rose head falls to the ground. It crumbles like ash when it hits the tiled floor. I turn away, then head back out into the rain. I don't even remember how long I've been up here. I return inside the mansion. As I make my way back to Dove's room, I see her in front of the study room. The witch's shadow engulfs her. I stop at a distance, then watch as Dove presents something to her father. A cross. The one I had seen her working on. A new one? Dove nods. I hear the witch sigh. He studies the handmade cross. It's been getting quieter around here, don't you think? His question seems to catch Dove off guard. I observe the way her mouth parts slightly, but she doesn't say a word. Red eyes gaze down at her. He knows. He knows everything we've been doing. The witch starts to turn away. Very well. Off to bed with you now. Dove steps back and the door to the study closes. Then she suddenly turns and heads down the hall. I start trotting after her to catch up, when something catches my attention. I slow to a stop by the door of the study. My ears twist towards the sound coming from inside the room. It sounds like the clinking of a chain, just like what I had heard the first day I arrived. Today is outside of his routine. It's supposed to be a quiet day. Why did he have to come in here? Show me what you've been working on. I swallow and ignore him. I hate it when he's like this. I try not to look at the wolf's call that emerges over his eyes. He's been using more blood caps than usual. Why bother? It's always in vain. No good. I go stiff in my seat. No, no, no. None of these are any good. He slams his fist on the desk and I hide my flinch. I shouldn't have entertained any of your silly ideas. Those bloody roses were the last straw. His hands ball up my notes and crumple them. I feel my body grow hot. I clench my jaw. Just ignore him. Everything he says when he gets like this means nothing. I hear a new voice emerge. Make all the little spells you want. You'll never be a witch. Never, never, never. My lips start to wobble. His words keep repeating. I can't breathe. Don't you already have everything? Little beast shouldn't get greedy. Give up already. My eyes sting. Anger swells inside me. You're such a coward. What was that? I clamp my mouth shut. Like father, like daughter. Leave. I just wanted to see your work. You saw. Very well. She must be walking around by now anyways. He places a kiss on top of my head and I go numb. You know I love you, right? Yes. Finally, he slips out the door. I sit in silence, my body stiff as I try to listen for him through the walls. His footsteps echo down the hall and I hear him speak. My love, there you are. My heart clenches. Immediately, I turn my focus back to myself and listen to the tap of the rain against the window instead. I run my hands over my notes, trying to smooth out the wrinkles. The ink has smudged in several places. I look up at the ceiling and take deep breaths. When Mother was around, she would tell me that I would become the strongest witch of the family. She wanted to become everything she couldn't be. But Father, he wants me to be nothing. I stand, giving up on today's studying. It feels like it's gotten late. The wolf barely had any energy today. I don't think he's been sleeping well, and the humidity the past couple days definitely hasn't helped. By the way, we know who he was referring to when he said my love. We have met that ghost. It's a very specific ghost. One that came out of a portrait. As is typical, portraits in houses like this of the people that live here. And that tends to be the family. So, yep. Now, if I get proving absolutely 100% wrong, I'm gonna fucking lose my mind. But. We spent the whole day flopped over on the floor, smelling like a wet dog. Step out into the hallway. I start on the path to my room. The moon casts a pale light through the windows in the hallway. Part of it shines on the paintings that line the walls. I pause for a moment. Beautifully done things. Father loves this painting so much. I bring my hand up to the canvas, then drag my nails across it as hard as I can. Okay. And we are on to chapter 4. I don't know if this is the last chapter. If it is, we finish today's. If it's not, we will continue next week and completely finish the game. I will say I had originally considered like doing all endings either on stream or separately for a video. But while I will be doing all endings, I will be doing them in my own time, just for myself to see. because I think this game is beautifully made, and I think considering the fact that it's a pay what you want game, you can play it yourself if you want to know the other endings, and I think you should. And if you're able to, please support the creator, because this game is genuinely one of the most beautiful games I have played so far. The art is just incredible, and the story is very well written from what we have seen so far. But yeah, just giving that heads up that I won't be doing all endings for this game, because I want more people to that come across these videos to end up playing it themselves and finding out the other endings. I can't find Dove. I've gotten used to seeing Dove first thing in the morning every day. To not see her immediately after waking up dislodges a heavy weight in my throat that settles deeply in my stomach. Admitting that I need her around doesn't make me feel any better. The emptiness I feel makes me shoot to my feet, my eyes frantically flicking to every corner of the room in search of Dove. Something feels horribly wrong. My gaze, filled with panic, swings to the window. It sits closed and secured. I let out a brief sigh of relief, but the pressure in my chest does not lessen. The door clacks noisily against the frame, drawing my attention to it. It can no longer close properly after the damage the wind had done. Oh my... It can no longer close properly after the damage the witch had done to it. My night has spent tossing and turning restlessly because of it. It wasn't the noise that troubled me, but the absence of security in what was once the closest thing to safety in this place. I steel myself, then slip out the door. I've searched every square inch of the mansion I could reach. Every cobweb corner, every shadow under the table, but still no trace of Dove. I sprint up and down the hall, not caring about the loud creaking under my steps. I mentally recall the past couple of days in my head. Today should be a quiet one, so I can afford to run around recklessly without fear. The longer time goes by without finding Dove, the more panic builds within me. A high-pitched whine escapes my throat. Where are you, Dove? Is she hurt? Why can't I find her anywhere? My trot down the hallway slows to a stop. My ears go limp, and my wide eyes begin to burn as they drop to the dusty floor. Is Dove gone? Oh dear. I go still. Wandering around without your guardian angel, little pup. I twist my neck to look behind me. Perhaps she's hiding after being punished? My blood runs cold. I stare around to fully face the boy, peeling back my lips to reveal the points of my teeth. The boy's eyes widen, causing me to falter for a moment. His mouth stretches into a sinister grin. My body quickly tenses to prevent myself from recoiling at the sight. Aw, how cute. You must like her. I hold my breath as the boy begins to stalk towards me. He holds his hands behind his back, his menacing gaze feeling like toxic spiders crawling all over me. I catch a quick glance of something he holds. It looks like a white dress. That might be a first, I think. Dove's been misbehaving a lot lately, my gaze is that. It is all your fault. I yelp and scurry away from the boy. He draws back and places a hand on his hip. A yawn pries open his jaws, and I crouch on the ground, feeling like a string pulled so taut it's on the verge of snapping. He looks down at me with narrow eyes before throwing something onto me. I flinch in alarm when my vision is suddenly shrouded. Pass this to our dear little Dove for me, won't you? I hastily untangle myself free from the fabric. When I look up, the boy's eyes are glued to the white dress. I fix a tear in it for her. But really, I should just throw this out after the mess Hypatia made of it. My ears stand up. That name again. Hypatia. The boy sighs. Little Dove would throw a temper tantrum if I were to do that, however. I look down at the simple white nightgown. My head tilts as I observe the crudely sewn patches that cover the gown. It's easy to spot the section that was fixed by a witch. It's flawlessly mended. Look up at the boy again. And he's gone. I drag my paws into the bedroom with Dove's dress between my teeth and drop it onto the floor. I still haven't found her. My eyes flicker over the window again, still closed and secure. I start to whine. Where are you, Dove? I pace around the room. My nails tap lightly on the floor. I sniff, I sniff loose sheets of paper and books, but the entire room is already filled with the overwhelming scent of old paper and floral decay. I suck in a deep breath, then let out a long howl in distress. Where? Hush. I perk up at the sound of Dove's rasping mumble. Why are you being so noisy? I instantly turn towards the direction of her voice, and I face her bed. My eyes grow to the size of saucers. Has she been in her bed this entire time? I leap for the curtains of the canopy, catching onto them with my teeth, and I yank them open. Dove hisses from the light that disturbs the darkness she lies in. I stand up on my haunches, desperate to make sure she's really there. My whole body chills. My claws curl into the rumpled bedsheets of the foot of the bed. Oh, baby, what happened to you? Oh, baby, no. Oh, baby, no. Oh, no. Baby. Dove squints at me in confusion. Hanging from the ceiling of the canopy, a cluster of dolls swing. Bitch, what the fuck? I didn't even notice that. And stare. Dove, you really sleep like that? For real? Have you considered a teddy bear? I can see the white bone of their little heads twitch and wobble as they look down upon me. Their beady black eyes are devoid of any soul, yet I feel a weight pressed down on me from their gaze. Their dresses are elaborate, but the exposed parts of their bodies are roughly whittled and splintered, tied together with twine that bleeds red. Chunks of hardened skin and scraps of stiff fur cling to the bones that make up the dolls. Animal bones. I swallow and breathe shallowly. These had to have been made by the witch. Between the dolls, I spot dry flowers tangled in the strings that suspend them. I suppose the smell of dead lilacs is more favorable than the smell of rotting flesh. Dove pushes herself up onto her elbows, and I stiffen when I hear her wince. She shifts more into the light, her sleeves pulling back in the process. Crawling from the tips of her fingers all the way up her shoulders are shallow cuts that crisscross all over the expanse of her skin. Punished. That's what the boy said. Dove's face conscious in anger. Go away! Her voice comes out in a malicious hiss, yet I can see the ways her shoulders shake, desperately trying to contain how she really feels. My brows pinch, and I feel a prick of irritation sweep over me. I hate seeing her do this, seeing her try to bottle up how she truly feels. Why can't she just let it all out? Would it be really that disastrous if she did? If she opened the gates of her heart just a little, would it really feel like the world is ending? I look up at the dolls and stare into their observant eyes. They loom over Dove like wardens stationed in front of a beast's cage. I dig my claws into the sheets. Oh. I won't leave. If this leads me to a bad ending, I'm gonna cry. Dove plops back down and sinks in a sharp rest. She ducks her blanket up to her ears, and I take that as a sign that I should leave her alone. But I don't. Dove lets out a small gasp when I jump onto the bed. She snaps her head up to look at me. Her round eyes focus on me as I settle down right beside her. I don't want to be a scaredy cat anymore. My heart thuds as I rest my head on the pillow beside Dove's. She glares at me. I told you to go away! She tries to sound cold, but the tremble in her bottom lip and the curve in her pinched brows contradict her mask. I move even closer until my warmth is shared with Dove. Her expression finally falls apart. I'm gonna cry! hold her glassy blue eyes in mine. If my hands were human, I would catch the tears in her eyes before they could fall. I can see her thoughts racing, as though she's searching for her misplaced bravery. Where do you go, Dove? What do the farthest corners of your mind look like? If it's too dark in there, I can join you. Maybe stumbling through the shadows will be easier if there are two of us, instead of just one. Dove brings one of her hands out from under the covers. I close my eyes. Dove's hand carefully finds the fur along my neck. I stay completely still, giving her time to grow her confidence. Her feathery touch grows more firm, exploratory. Her palms run along my back. When she feels more sure of my trust in her, she closes into my side. I feel her warm puff of breath as she buries her face into the side of my neck. Her fingers rip my fur almost painfully, but I do nothing to stop her. Her small frame quivers as a quiet stream of tears begin flowing down her cheeks. They hurt. Oh, baby, they're just a little girl. She's just a little baby. They're just little kids. They're children. Oh. They should be go out for having ice cream. They should be getting ice cream together and enjoying the day at the park. Not this. After crying, Dove falls asleep, still clutching onto me. The dolls above stare directly at us as I lay with her. I narrow my eyes as I watch them hang lifelessly. If they dare to disturb Dove's sleep, I'll tear them down and reduce them to splinters. They remain silent, however my ears begin to pick up a sound. It sounds like the buzzing of flies. Odette was Siri's mother. I watch as Dove lights the final candle on the table. The flames flicker and devour each other until they form a single entity. I stare at the gray smoke that rises to the ceiling with worry. Before he died, he would make me treats behind his mother's back and show me his sketchbooks. They were too good for a place like this. That's why they didn't last long. Alive, at least. With a flick of her wrist, Dove kills the flame of her last matchstick. The flames grow bigger and bigger. She takes a step back to admire her work. Every candle on the dining table room has been lit. This was Dove's idea, to lure out the last ghost on our list. The flames roar and grow taller by the second. She crouches down to pick something up from the floor before promptly getting back up. The object sticks on the palm of her hand. She looks down at it, closes her hand, and takes a step towards the flames. I tense at how close she moves to the fire. Hot air billows the pointed strands of her hair, and flicks of flames come across enough to singe the ends. Dove stares at the fire, mesmerized by the wisps of red, orange, and white. She lifts her hands, like she means to caress one of the infernal coils. That's all it takes for it to appear. City manifests out of the shadows behind Dove. Her hand freezes in place when she hears its cry. Quick as always. I cringe at the coldness that drips from her words. Dove pulls her hand back, then fiddles with the object in her hands. I never asked for your protection. I don't need it. I never did. Her mouth goes downward. She whispers so quietly, my ears twitch trying to catch her next words. I just wanted you to be my friend. She closes her hands together, and a crease forms between her brows. Her eyes close. I'm sorry, you had to meet me. Her eyes open again, and I can see her straining to not turn and look at the ghost one last time. Her lips start to wobble, and I see her swallow a lump in her throat. Your mother is waiting for you, City. Dove brings the clutch of hair in her hands up to the flames. City screams when it sees Dove approach the fire. It raises its long, thin arms just as the bundle of hair catches onto a flame. Out of all the others, these remains burn the easiest. Spindly fingers brush against her back, sending Dove into a violent flinch. She takes a sharp breath and unconsciously recoils away from the ghost's touch before the flaming bundle in her hand is thrown into the heart of the fire. City lets out a screech when it sees Dove move too close to the fire, then I jump when Dove cries out. I watch as she stumbles back, clutching her hand in the process. Redness begins to form on the tips of her fingers. I yelp and rush to her side. The candles flame begin to burn out of control. Smoke fills the room and I can hear Dove choke on a cough. My heart thunders. Oh gods, how are we going to put this out? Dove drops to her knees and covers her mouth and nose. The smoke grows thicker and making the room hard to see. I let out a whimper and grab Dove's sleeve. We have to get out of here. Dove stumbles forward and blinks away tears from the smoke. Soon after, I feel my own eyes burn. I try to stay low to the ground, but it's already become too hard to breathe. I wheeze for oxygen and try to drag Dove with me as I search for the way out of the room. Dove's body grows heavy. I can hear her rasp her air. Black dots start to creep into the corner of my vision. I can feel the strength in my body begin to deplete. Then I hear a series of snaps. Within seconds, the windows of the dining room burst open, and all the smoke in the room is magically pushed out with a strong gust of wind. I squeeze my watery eyes shut and slide onto the floor from the strength of the gale. My nails leave scratch marks where they claw into the floorboards. When it stops blowing, I blink rapidly to return moisture to my eyes. Dove coughs and gags beside me on her hands and knees. I slowly try to lift myself off the floor. I get rigid at the sound of footsteps entering the dining room. The witch's eyes rake over the room from the melted candles to the scorch marks on the ceiling. Eventually they land on me and Dove as we attempt to recover from the smoke on the floor. He crosses his arms and I see blood dripping down his arms from an activated magic circle. What a mess. Dove slowly stands up with her dress balled up in her hands. Clean this up. This room needs to look just as your mother left it when she comes back. I tilt my head and look at Dove. Her brows twitch as her expression turns into disbelief. I can see her knuckles turn white. Her mouth opens and closes like she has something to say, but no words come out. The witch turns on his heel and starts to make his exit. On his way out, he takes a dark handkerchief out of his pocket and cleans the blood off his arm. She'll finally return to us soon. Right before the witch steps through the threshold, he looks over his shoulder. Not at Dove, but at me. I'm so taken aback from the intensity of his stare that the fur along my spine puffs up. I only remember to breathe once again after he breaks off his stare. Take good care of your little friend, Dove. He swiftly turns on his heel and leaves the room. Neither of us move an inch until his footsteps disappear down the hall. I barely dodge the book that Dove blindly tosses behind her as she ravages the bookshelves. It's not possible. She chews on her thumbnail and sifts through the book before it joins the rest on the floor. Why does it feel like he's telling the truth this time? I hear her let out an exasperated huff. She moves on from the bookshelves on her desk to ruffle through sheets of notes and journals. Nothing. Paper crunches between her fingers as she leans over the desk. I can see her shoulders trembling before sheets of papers are sent flying off the desk. He's lying! I cross my paws and lay my head on them. Dove drops down beside me and wraps her arms around her knees. I feel confused. What is it that I feel confused. What is it that has Dove so panicked? Is it because of what the witch had told her? He said her mother would be returning soon. Was that not a good thing? I wonder if she's been this whole time dead. The corners of my mouth tug down and my ears flatten. Dove still has both of her parents, but she doesn't seem happy about it. If I still had mine, maybe I wouldn't have made the choice that led me to this moment. Maybe I would be less foolish. I turn my head away from Dove and make a small whine. Dove definitely isn't that close to her father, but maybe her relationship with her mother is better. As long as they're still around, it's not too late for them to grow better bonds, like it is for me. Bitterness spreads through me. What's wrong? My fur twitches at the feeling of light fingers brushing against them. They retreat quickly. Wolf? Dove's face pops up in front of me. What's wrong? I huff and turn my head away from her again. Dove coughs and I ignore her. I then feel hands dig around my arms and pick me up from the floor. I love that she just fucking scoops us up. I narrow my eyes at Dove when she pulls me up to face to face. Why are you being so moody now? I look away and try to worm my way out of her grip. Her grip only tightens and the feeling unfurls a coil of discomfort that causes me to act out before I can even think about it. I throw weight forward and smash my head right into Dove's forehead. Dove screams and throws her head back, letting me go so she can massage the redness formers on the center of her forehead. I fall onto the floor and curl into a ball away from her, cradling my own head with my paws as I let out a small whimper. God, they really are small kids. For a moment, the two of us lie curled up on the floor, racing into an agony. You're so dumb. Oh, baby. Ow! She shoots a glare at me. What is your problem? My eyes shut, ignoring her. I hear her sigh, then it goes quiet. Some time passes before I hear Dove start to shuffle around. Pages are leafed through and books are tossed recklessly until Dove's whispers are all that fill the room. My eyes close and I get lost in my own thoughts. Do you like fireworks? My eyes pop open and my ears perk up. I look at Dove and tilt my head. She kneels next to me, clutching a book in her lap nervously. She glances at me, then looks down at her lap. I can make them for you. I can feel my tail begin to sway, and Dove's face lights up. They're so cute. The horrors are going to fucking kill us, but they're so cute. I've never seen fireworks before. The study is thankfully empty when we enter it. Dove crosses the floor, moving from shelf to shelf to gather materials. She places small vials of powders on the floor in front of me. Using certain types of metal is what determines the color of this firework. I follow her hand as she points to individual vials. Copper for blue, sodium for yellow, barium for green, strontium for red. She places her head on her lap and observes the metals with a melancholic look. I've never actually made a firework on my own before. Father used to make them by hand when Mother was around. Every year on my birthday. My eyes flop down at the frown Dove wears. She gathers the rest of the supplies and quickly starts to make small satchels with fuses trailing out of them. She casts furtive glances in my direction as she assembles them. When she's done, she wipes as much of explosive powder off her cheek. The floor is a mess of materials, but Dove pays it no mind and stands. There's just one more thing we need. My head pops up and my tail begins to wag again. Dove notices my excitement and brightens in what almost seems like relief. She holds up a finger. We just need a tube to launch the fireworks out of. Dove starts to search the study, pulling open drawers and dunking cabinets doors open wide. Her cheeks puff out every time her search doesn't bear fruit. I poke my head out from under her arm to get a peek into the cabinet. She digs into boxes and pulls out bottles until she reaches the back of the cabinet. She strains her arm to feel out the farthest corners, as though what she's looking for is cloaked by a spell. Her efforts turn up nothing as she retracts her arms with a disappointed huff. Where does he keep them? She chews on her thumbnail in sauce and does another lap around the room, double-checking every place she's looked. I wander around the room on my own. Perhaps my lover perspective will see something Dove doesn't. To my luck, I spot what looks like a paper tube at the bottom of a shelf, tucked away between worn books and jars. I make an excited jeep and trot over to it. I waste no time gently grabbing the tube with my mouse. Then I notice a... Don't like that. Then I notice the pale feet behind the shelf. A cry rips out of my throat. I drop the tube and startle back from the shelf with my tail between my legs. I hear the slap of Dove's feet make their way over to me. She looks at me in confusion. What's got you all worked up? I stare at the feet behind the shelf, holding my breath to see if they'll suddenly start moving. My whole body is racked with fear. That doesn't look like another ghost. Dove follows my line of sight and I see her go still when she sees what's behind the shelf. It can't be. Her eyes are wide in disbelief. I jump when Dove suddenly shoots off to the side of the shelf. Help me move it! My jaw unhinges. Help her? As much as I would rather not, I make my way over and push against the shelf with my whole body. Books topple onto the floor and glass bottles rattle together as we slowly move the narrow shelf, inch by inch, until the dark curtain behind it is exposed to us. My heart pounds and my muscles ache. We both take a moment to process what we found. Who we found. I can see Dove's hands fidgeting in the corner of my vision. I swallow hard. Then I move forward towards the still curtains. There's no smell of decay. Instead, there seems to be a light hint of something floral. It's surprisingly pleasant. I brace myself and drag open the curtains with my teeth. Dove chokes on a gasp behind me and the floor creaks. I give her a quick glance and see that she's taken a step back. It's hard to understand the expression she wears. She seems to go through a string of them. Man, we were gonna launch fireworks. Like, we were gonna launch fireworks. We're gonna see some fucking pretty lights. Everything was gonna be wonderful. Why do you have to find a corpse? Her face becomes painted with disbelief. For a wink of time, a spark of yearning lights up in her eyes, then her expression splits into anguish. I turn back to the person behind the curtain. The woman. Her skin is pure ivory, untouched by rigor mortis, but those bandages a breath away from its ruinous claws. So I was right! I was right earlier. I don't know how I think, like, I'm happy I figured it out. And I, like, connected that, but still. Death's presence feels so close, like it's packed back and forth, waiting to claim what's rightfully theirs. The gown she wears is a shiny white silk, buttoned all the way up to her chin, with red stitching the zigzags on her skirt in chaotic fashion. Something about the way the crimson threads loop up and down the skirt feels spiteful, impatient. My brows pinch together. I've seen stitching like that before. Her light hair is chopped sharply, framing her jaw, and the panel behind her head looks like an explosion of colorful paint strokes. Bold tendrils of gore and miscellaneum spread around along the wood. Fungi of different shapes and sizes bloom around her head like a horrific. Can I not choke on my fucking words? Bold tendrils of gore and mycelium spread along the wood. Fungi of different shapes and sizes bloom around her head like a horrific halo. She stands with her eyes closed and them hidden close-lid like a marionette. Her arms hang nearly at her sides. Okay. I'm gonna look for strings that hold her up, yet disturbingly find none. I'm almost curious to see if she's a wind-up key behind her that would bring her to life. She's clearly dead, but she's preserved so well that I fall under the illusion that a nudge of her shoulder is all it would take to make her eyes flutter open. So, are we gonna have to burn an entire corpse? Is that what we have to do? Unlike the others, her entire body has been kept. And unlike the others, there is no tag with her name on it. But it doesn't matter. I already know it. Upasha. How long has she been tucked away here, hidden like a rare gem in a jewelry box? I now understand why her remains were not found amongst the others. The tether that binds her here could only be this strong if her whole body was kept. She's been here this entire time. My ears twitch at the sound of Dove's voice. I start blinking rapidly when Dove strides over to the side of the shell again and starts pushing it back into place. She's covering her up again? Maybe she doesn't watch the witch know that what we've discovered? I tilt my head. But are we just going to do nothing about her? My head thrums with conflicted feelings. Once the shelf is settled back into its original position, she picks up the paper tube I dropped and starts making her way over to the pile of sachets on the floor. Let's go. Give the shelf one last glance, then trail after Dove. We both stare at the rain that falls through the hatch on the roof. No! We can't do fireworks. It's raining again. Each drop of water clanks against the iron stairs. My ears fall flat on my head. Can we still light fireworks in the rain? The face Dove makes as she guards the fireworks gives me my answer. I softly whimper. Dove gives me a sympathetic look, then looks up at the open hatch in contemplation. She chews on her lip, deep in thought. Her face lights up shortly after. We just need to make sure the fuse doesn't get wet. Okay? How can we do that when it's raining? My brows raise when Dove starts to bound down the stairs, and I quickly chase after her. This is a terrible idea. We have to stuff the shell in nice and tight, or it will misfire. We're going to get ourselves killed. It hasn't even been that long since we set the dining room on fire. My doll swishes anxiously as I watch Dove aim the paper tube towards her open bedroom window. Oh, I love her. My daughter. Oh, girl, no. Bad idea. Terrible idea. She angles the tube just shy of where the rain hits her floor. When she's satisfied with the aim, she looks at me with an excited grin. Are you ready? No. I shake my head furiously. No! This is crazier than lighting up a table's worth of candles all at once. Maybe. My loud thoughts come out as nothing more than a whine. Hee hee! Don't worry so much. She holds a lit candle up to the fuse and my fur stands up on end. I swallow as the fuse begins to burn. Just sit back and watch. I count each second that passes as the fuse burns away until it disappears into the tube. Dove tightens her arms around the tube and braces herself. I suck on her breast, then... Light explodes in bursts of color against the bleeding canvas. The room lights up in flashes and the sound from the explosion rattles my bones. The sight takes all the breath out from my lungs, my heart thunders against my ribs and I start to feel weightless. It's overwhelming, intense, frightening, and exhilarating. It's amazing. I race to the window and stand with my phone paused on the window seat to get a closer look at the fireworks. The rain pelts against my fur and gets in my eyes, but I barely pay it any mind. Is this how Dove felt in that moment where she stood facing the tempestuous storm head-on? My tail swings madly with excitement. Emotion of awe and wonder rushed through me. I try to memorize the moment. The sound of the wind being drowned out by the fireworks, how the rain makes my nose feel frozen, the way the light looks when the fireworks explode. And Dove. I clear my head to look back at her after the fireworks are done. She stands staring at the sky, lost deep in thought. I feel uneasy over the conflict reflected on her face. Dove rips her dress, and I notice a messy patchwork of stitches that hold her thin fabric together. She inhales deeply. I let out a yelp when she suddenly bolts out of the room. I rush into the study just as Dove finishes shoving the 12 bookshelves to the side again. She breathes heavily as she yanks open the curtains that hide the body behind them. I'm gonna quickly save. My eyes bug out of my head when I see that what she does next. Dove grabs a handful of the corpse bodies and then rips it open. Buttons pop and fly. Dove's jaw is clenched slightly as she takes in the colorless flesh beneath the clothes. A freezing chill crawls beneath my skin as I observe the neat 6 stitches trailing up the corpse's torso, all the way up to her throat. Dove takes a deep breath in before digging her fingers into the seam between the sewn-up skin. The taut threads begin to snap as she surely tears it open. My most recent meal threatens to escape when Dove reveals the organs beneath the corpse's flesh. Their organs never look bright, especially with a color like hers. I would question if this woman were truly dead if it wasn't for the stillness of her insides. Perhaps she isn't even a real corpse, merely a disturbing replica of one? Not a perfect one, however, considering the 3 random ribs she seems to be missing. Damn it! I startle when Dove curses abruptly. She takes a step away from the corpse and begins to pace in a small circle. All this effort to keep her here. She throws the woman a look of pure scorn. Why do you get all this time? Why do you get all his time? Her lips wobble. When I'm still here. My heart sinks when I see Dove's clenched fist tremble. I look at the corpse in confusion. Just who is she to Dove? Her mother. Basil, keep up. Dove's face hardens. She looks down at me. Help me find her ribs. I blink at her demand. You wanted to put all the ghosts to rest, didn't you? Dove takes a step towards me and I take a step back. You wanted to end their suffering, right? Isn't it unfair for them to be stuck here? My ears spin back. We must get rid of her. She straightens and glares at the corpse. Dove stirs her gaze from the corpse and begins to leave. I hear her murmur something to herself before she comes back. Oh boy. Dove moves through the mansion like a hurricane. She empties drawers on the floor and throws books off the shelves. I keep my distance and quietly do my own searching. This feels much different than when we released the other ghosts. A sinking feeling chews away at me. Suddenly I feel regret for what I've started. I wonder if this is the right thing to do. It's like Dove's vision has narrowed to the point where she can't see anything but this impulsive need to be rid of the hallway ghost. I look down at the dusty floor. Get rid of. When this ghost is gone. I wonder if those will like what its absence looks like. Where are they? Dove sweeps everything off the top of a dresser with a curse. In an instant, everything clatters onto the floor. Dove whips around and backs her fist on the dining room table. Candles fall and tremble from the small quake she creates. She releases a frustrated sigh, then freezes. My ears stand. I try to strain my neck to see what has captured Dove's attention, but I can't see the top of the dining room table. Dove climbs on top of the table, my heart begins to thump with anticipation. She crawls to the middle of the table, shoving melted candles out of the way. The wood groans under her weight like she had disturbed its sleep. Her hand slowly reaches out to pick up a single candle before climbing back down onto the floor. Waiting to see what she's found fills me with anxiety. I make my way over to her and she lowers down to kneel on the floor. Something sticks out of the melted candle she crowds in her hands. I recognize the texture of it. A bone. Dove sticks her nails into the wax, trying to claw her way to the bone. She then crumbles the candle into the floor with all her weight, pushing down on it until the hard wax crumbles. The rib is finally freed, but she does not look as victorious as I thought she would. A line forms between her brows. I had a feeling. My head plops to the side and I look at Dove. Her gaze meets mine. It's like they're filling up the space for her until she gets back. I feel my heart pause for a moment. My wide eyes drop down to the rib. Oh. Dove rises and I copy the movement without thinking. I feel numb. I know where to look next. I nod, but my mind feels miles away from my body. A faint buzzing makes my ears twitch. I twist my head towards it. Buzzing flies whip around the candles on the dining room table. For anyone that doesn't know, I'm assuming this is intentional because of its meaning, but flies are considered an omen of death. Basically, like, if you see just like a bunch of flies, that tends to be an indicator that like death is present there, and that's why they're in that area. Where did we find flies again? Yeah, in those room. I sure hope none of her dolls are secretly her mother's rib. That would be You spend a lot of time in here, but not to study, like father and I. Dove speaks to herself as she walks past the shelf of books, slowly running her hand along their spines. Well, maybe she isn't quite speaking to herself, but she's most definitely not speaking to me. I see Dove open and close her mouth. It seems as though her mind is overflowing with words to say, but she sees no point in speaking when the person her words are for isn't around. Her sharp eyes look through the shelves. I follow behind her until we end up in a dark corner. Section by section, the candlelight illuminates each book spine. A large mirror on the wall briefly shakes Dove, but she continues her search nonetheless. In the dim light, I make out what looks like a pile of blankets and pillows on the floor below the mirror, as well as an old oil lantern covered in sticky cobwebs. The sound of a fallen book brings us both to a stiff halt. I crane my neck up as my feet move back from the shelf to where the book had come from. Oh boy. Another book suddenly tumbles off the shelf. I barely dodge it. I can only watch as the shelves begin to bend down the weight of something climbing up and down along the books. Creaking wood screeches in my ear as more books stumble down. Dove and I both track the movement in dead silence. Our senses are as heightened as the bookshelves. In an instant, we bring our eyes to a particular book. I squint, trying to make out more details of the book. The book sits oddly, squeezed between two others on the very top shelf. Despite being so high, the spine appears extremely worn, like it's been plucked to be read over and over again. The library ceiling is incredibly tall. The top of the bookshelf is practically in the heavens. My body tenses in anticipation, hoping this mysterious library resident does us a favor and knocks it down onto the floor. But it remains tightly lodged. I make a small noise to get Dove's attention and point my nose at it. She seems to have already noticed it. The corners of her mouth are weighed down as she sets the candle on the floor, moving towards the shelf with unhurried steps. My chest pounds as I watch the shelves, searching for movement. Nothing. I share a nervous glance with Dove before she sucks in a deep breath and starts climbing the shelf. My nerves are lit with fear, keeping my eyes wide open in vigilance. I start to relax a little once Dove reaches the halfway point. Her shoulders tremble from exertion and her breasts come out in shaky puffs. She stops to take a quick rest before swinging her gaze down with scrunched brows. Just halfway up the shelf must be high enough for the floor beneath to feel steady as sand. She retracts her eyes quickly from the side, ready to keep going. She lifts her hand to move further up, but not before the sound of wood groaning begins to echo, not far from where she clings to with all her might. I go cold. Dove gasps and her hand slips. I yip in alarm and dig my nails onto the floor as Dove struggles to keep a steady grip again, her feet dangling loosely in the air. My tail swishes in distress and my mind races. It halts for a single thought. The blankets! I raced towards the bundle of blankets I had seen earlier, gathering a mouthful of quilt before looking up at the shelf again. The mirror on the wall directly faces the shelf Dove is clinging to. She finally secures her footing once again, but not soon enough. Immediately, a hairless creature reaches the shelf she had just dangled over. What? A shudder crawls up my spine as I finally see the thing in full. Its arms is long in proportion, resembling the limbs of a gangly spider. Its skin, saturated in decayed darkness, was a sticky sheen. A coiled stump sits in place of its neck, as though the creature's head had been twisted off. I watch as it weightlessly crawls along the shelves, towards Dove. I release a string of panic barks, causing Dove to twist her neck around right towards the mirror. Dove goes completely white and shoots up the shelf in a rush. I drop the quilt from my mouth and circle the floor frantically. My eyes dart between Dove climbing in a rush and to her reflection, the monster still hot on her heels. I see her arms shake and hear her nails rake across the wood. The old shelves creak and curve under Dove's feet. I feel myself lurch to the side, when the entire bookshelf starts to lean forward. As the book continues to fall forward, I start to worry that the bookshelf will give in to gravity before Dove does. As she continues to climb, she faces the challenge of ducking her head to avoid falling text, throwing a few out of her way for better purchase. At this point, if she were to fall, broken legs might be the least of her problems. The closer she gets to the top shelf, the faster the creature continues to pursue her. Oily hands narrowly miss her feet, permeating every book with glossy slime. I wince at the mere thought of literary pages coated in cold, ghostly fluid, muddling the ink and smearing every word into non-existence. Basil, now is not the time for that. The creature grows frustrating in its chase and begins to slam its fists onto shelves, shattering them into crunchy wet splinters. It violently rocks its entire body, making the bookshelf tremble unsteadily. Dove lets out a squeal and almost loses her grip. She's forced to throw her hands onto a shelf just before reaching the very top. You're so close! The creature leaps off of falling shelves and bounds right for Dove. I hear her make a strained noise. She stretches her arm up in desperation, reaching for the strange book. The entire bookshelf shakes violently again. I watch the mirror's reflection with my breathing held in suspension. Those trembling fingers stretch for the book's spine, while a slimy hand closes around her ankle. Her fingers brush against the book before the creature yanks Dove back, and she slips away. I howl in surprise and prepare to throw myself under her. I see Dove dangling upside down in the air with a befuddled expression on her face. Huh? My jaw drops. Dove swings at the creature's rib as it languidly reaches up and tucks the book Dove previously tried to grab. The book slides out with the pull of a murky finger and slams onto the floor right in front of me. Dove wears a dazed expression as she's carried down the shelf before unceremoniously dropped into the heap. Oh, okay. Okay. Slowly, she picks herself up off the ground and quickly puts herself together. We turn to the mirror and see the creature disappear to some other part of the library. Blinking, she dusts off her dress, then makes a repulsed expression as she carefully picks up the fallen book, touching only the parts not coated in a shiny fluid, without another word. The old pages conform around something shoved in the middle of the book. Yeah, like those really is just like, it's like, let me help you there, baby. It's okay. It's okay, I'm the librarian. I can help you. Dove opens it. There lies another rib, tucked between words like a bookmark. For a moment, I watched Dove's eyes flicker back and forth, reading the words on the pages. I still don't know if I believe in soulmates, but if they existed, I think the universe would send signs. Signs like the ones they already sent to us. Dove mouse forms a hard line before she takes the rib out and snaps the book closed. A romance novel. I blink. That's it? She shoves the book once more without another word. One more. I begin to follow Dove out, and I soon stop dead in my tracks. There it is again, the sound of buzzing. But this time, its presence is much more looming. I snap my head back and flies crawl over the books, far more than there was in the dining room. My heart starts to beat hard in my chest. What'd I say? A symbol of death. Ooh! I feel like I'm tracing the footsteps of someone I've never met before. We walk in and out of rooms, searching for the last rib. Dove bites on her thumbnail as she searches through the dressers and drawers, all of which have a lingering presence attached to them. It relieves and unnerves me that we have not seen the boy or the witch today, despite all the commotion we've been causing, but I try to count it as a small blessing instead of an omen. I pass slowly through the hall as Dove stomps through it. We pass the doors of rooms that have already been ravaged, all except for one, but Dove passes by it completely. Curiously, I pause in front of it. Is she not going to search this one? Dove turns back when she no longer hears the click of my nails behind her. Her eyes catch onto the door I've stopped in front of. That's nothing but a bathroom. Bathroom? I give Dove a small woof. It's nothing special. Dove's brows furrow, but she went through quite a fuss to have it made, just for the drain in her pretty tub to stop working. Dove sweeps past me and bursts through the door. Oh! Yeah, I wonder why the drain stopped working. I wonder why that was. The sound of dripping water echoes in the small room. Dove's feet make a wet slapping sound on the red tiles. When she steps further into the bathroom, the red sticks to her feet, revealing the pristine white tiles beneath. I hesitate to follow Dove in, because I finally spot the source of the ruby liquid that stains the floor. Fucking Carmen, Lobotomy Corporation. She's haunting every narrative, man. The tang of metal fills the air, and blood droops over the edge of a porcelain tub that sits under a tall window. I take a deep breath in and carefully step past the doorway. The ground is slick and the air is moist. I concentrate on every step I take so I don't fall flat on my face. Dove stands before the tub. When I finally reach her side, I carefully lift my front paws up on the edge of the tub and peer into it. I can see my face clearly in the still surface of the crimson pool that fills the tub to the brim. It just became like this one day. And died. Dove's face is strained. It looks like she would rather choke on her words than say them out loud. I didn't want to move what would happen. I didn't want to know what would happen if I tried to put my hand in it. Dove inhales deeply in preparation, then pulls up her sleeve of her dress to her shoulder. I throw a nervous glance at the cuts across her skin that are still freshly scabbed over. Pray nothing in here likes the taste of flesh. Girl, don't jinx it! Dove lets out a small gasp when she dips only her fingers into the blood. She moves her hand away instinctively and breathes shallowly. It's warm. A shiver crawls up my spine. The stickiness under my paws begins to make me uncomfortable. Dove presses her eyes shut for a second and dips her arm back in. I can see goosebumps rise on Dove's arm before it sinks into the red. She goes slow until she reaches the bottom of the tub. Her arm shifts as she searches for the drain. The sleeve of her dress slips off her shoulder and falls into the blood. Red bleeds into the white fabric. I can hear Dove's breath hitch where she finds something. My whole body is wound up tight. The tension in the air is thick enough to cut with a knife. The sound of the dripping faucet haunts me. Immediately, something at the end of the tub makes my eyes snap to it. I let out a loud cry. Dove jumps and looks at me before she whisks her neck around to the small sound of bubbling. Oh, bitch, no! Uh-uh. No. 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 We both watch in horror as something beneath the surface of the blood begins to breathe into life. The bubble begins to crawl towards Dove, pulling a shriek from my throat. Dove, get your hand out. I was like, get your hand out. Get your hand out. Dove grits her teeth and plunges her arm deeper into the bowl of garlic. Dove, no! Sweat runs down her pale skin as she concentrates intensely on unlodging whatever was blocking the drain. I whimper as I watch the bubbling move closer and closer. Dove releases a shaky breath, but she still doesn't pull her arm out. The bubbles are just a breath away from brushing against Dove's arm. She lets out a sharp hiss and grits her teeth. Get out! I latch my teeth onto the back of Dove's dress and rip her away from the tub. I throw us into the slippery tiles. Blood splashes all over us. It takes me a moment to catch my breath when my senses slowly return to me. I hear the sound of gurgling. I look to my side. Dove lies next to me, curled into a ball. Her eyes are squished shut, her chest rising and falling heavily. Cradled in her red-covered hands is a rib bone. The buzzing noise that arises this time does not surprise me, but the merciless insistence of it does cause me to pin my ears to my head with a whimper. When we once again stand before Hippasch's body, we're covered in much more blood than when we started. Her body has also started acting more like a corpse. Flies crawl over the woman's blotchy skin, and the sour smell of rot now invades my nose, making it wrinkle in discomfort. Wringing the missing ribs feels like it's broken some kind of spell on the body, like it had been sitting in time's blind spot, and now we're placing it back under its hard light once more. Perhaps this is why Dove now hesitates. She clutches her rib bones with a white-knuckled grip. I'm slightly worried they'll snap into pieces any moment now. I feel like we're gonna have a choice soon, so let me just quickly save here just in case. Her face is glazed over with a blank mask, but the wariness in her eyes betray her. Earlier she had been in such a rush to send this person away, but now she seems to be stalled by her own thoughts. When she finally breaks out of her head, she stomps over to a drawer and rummages through it. She produces a needle, a roll of thread, and one more thing off a shelf, a bottle that glows a faint orange. She makes her way over to the body. She makes quick work of placing the ribs back where they belong before plucking out the old broken stitches that held Hippasch's torso together. Her hands had been so rough in tearing the stitching open, but now her trembling fingers work delicately. After disposing of them, she begins to mend the flesh together. Her stitching is clumsy, a trait she shares with her mother, I suppose. When she's finished, she takes a step back. The ghost is so different from the others. It feels like whatever happens next will be the point of no return. The final stop on this train is approaching, and the one way of the ride is to jump before it crashes. Dove holds up the glowing bottle she had grabbed earlier. Liquid fire. It can melt through anything. We don't have to risk burning the house down again. That's nice. I'm glad we're not burning down the house again. My chest tightens. This is it. Dove places a hand on the corpse's arm, then tears her from the alcove. The corpse crumbles to a heap on the floor. I won't be making the mistake of thinking this body could simply wake up and continue living anymore. It decays rapidly before my very eyes, like it's overly eager to correct itself to the rightful stage of necrosis. See, like, I know we're getting rid of the body, but I'm so scared for Dove, like, after we get rid of the body, because what the fuck is the witch going to do? Hippasch's pale skin darkens in patches into a dusk green. Fading lines start to marble across her cheeks, and an oily sheen begins to develop along with a foul smell that has been breathing shallowly. I flinch from the sound of Dove popping the cork out from the bottle. Panic surges through me. I don't feel ready at all, but I keep finding out that there are not many changes that wait for you to be before they become your new reality. The corpse's flesh begins to dissolve from the pouring liquid. It sizzles and hisses as it easily eats through flesh, all the way through to the bone. She covers the body slowly with the honey-like substance until the last drop falls from the bottle's mouth. I lift my gaze from the corpse. It lands on the hallway ghost standing on the room with us. I've never seen it enter a room before. But now it turns its neck, looking around the room as if she's in search for something. Dove thrusts a bottle in her hand when she sees her, and it cracks on the floor. She roots her gaze away and looks down at the disintegrating corpse. You'll finally be gone now. I can see Dove's eyes turn glossy. You'll be gone. Her head snaps back to the ghost. The ghost looks down at its fading hands. Its lifeless gaze finds Dove and turns to her with its arms spread, ready to pull her into a loving embrace. Oh. Whatever emotions Dove has been bottling up instantly shatter like glass. My mind feels foggy as I watch Dove break into a sob. Move before she does. Dove shows a son of gas when I stop her from running to the ghost. What are you doing? Let go! I tighten the grip on my jaws around her skirt even more. I whimper my own cry towards her. I understand. I've done something like this before. When the world was so big and I was so small, everything terrified me. When I was overwhelmed with emotions and I didn't understand a thing, I would always run into the arms of my mother too. Let go! I have a really bad feeling if we let her hug her mother. I have a terrible fucking feeling. Like, horrific, horrendous. We are not letting her hug her mother. That is a terrible idea, I have a feeling. Also, another argument in favor of not letting her hug her mother. Last time she got touched by a ghost, it did not go well. I know that what will happen the second the ghost phantom arms wrap around her living body. I don't think my heart will be able to take it if I have to hear Dove scream in pain again. Soul or body, she can never reach her either again without getting burned. I wish Dove wasn't constantly reminded of what it feels like to be in pain. It's like everyone that loves Dove cannot show it if it's not in the form of a stinging lash. Is this how it has to be? Dove drops to her knees and cries. I don't care if she hates me for stopping her. Perhaps she truly prefers to say goodbye as her flesh sears, but I won't let her. What was it like when she first lost her? Is this her first or second farewell? Dove must have so much to say, but time races against her. I think if Hipash's life was an hourglass, it would be down to a single grain of sand. One tiny moment is all that has been spared for Dove to say a lifetime's worth of words. The ghost fades more and more. I wait for the sound that will signal the end. The sound of that final grain falling. Dove sniffles and presses her forehead into the cool floorboards. In another life, can you still be my mother? My breast hitches. Next time. She wipes the sick tears that dripped down to her chin. It would be nice if we could be human. And maybe I could be enough for you. And you could be enough as well. Dove lifts her head. Something that looks like a smile cracks through the ghost's features. The ghost's face softens in a way that looks proud of Dove, and confusingly, Dove reacts like she's been slapped across the face. Don't look at me like that. Like this is what you wanted. She clenches her fists. I never asked for this! Dove's scream makes my chest tighten painfully, but for some reason I found my brows pinching together in puzzlement. She never asked for this? What does she mean by that? Then it comes. The last grain finally falls, and falls so heavily. It rings so loudly in my skull that my ears go flat. I don't need to look, I just slide up to Dove's side. I can tell by the way she wraps her arms around me so tightly and how loudly she steps into my fur that the ghost of her mother is gone. For good this time. Terrible things are about to happen. Terrible things are about to fucking happen. The door to Dove's bedroom flies open and slams against the wall. I feel Dove go still as a statue under my head. I lift my head up from her lap. The hand that has been threading the fur along my spine now holds it in a numbing grip. I feel his magic before I see him. The grotesque dolls above me rattle, and the drapes around Dove's bed tremble. Soon after, his footsteps enter into the room. My breathing pauses. Dove's father must have finally seen what we did. A burst of magic knocks me over. I hear Dove gasp and feel her arms cage around me. Air slams into us like a train and sends the canopy curtains into a wild billow. The cold air makes my eyes sting and I squeeze them shut. Static makes my fur stand. It feels like the wind is blended with shocking strings of electricity. Men will literally try to necromancy their fucking dead wife before going to therapy. When the gale finally dies down, I can feel Dove's heart slamming against her ribs as she shields my body with her own. Her breath comes out in distressed gasps. I dare to open my eyes again, and darkness surrounds us. My own heart hammers away as I gaze out into the space beyond the posts of the bed frame. The curtains have been magically dissolved, leaving us completely exposed to the void. Every shallow breath I make sounds intent by the nothingness. Everywhere I look is followed by darkness, save for a single light that drapes over Doe's bed. I look up, trying to find its source. It seems to come from nowhere. I take a peek over the edge of the bed. I can see my own appearance reflected in the obsidian surface that covers the ground. Ripples break the calmness of the glassy liquid, caused by something that walks towards us. Arms yank me back from the edge of the bed. Though scarcely breathes, she holds me close and twists her body in an attempt to hide me from the one who approaches. It's the witch. I brace myself to face his wrath. My footsteps create a wet slap as he draws closer. The sound of the footsteps is much lighter than I expected them to be. My whole body seizes with terror. What have you done? Doe flinches from the wave of energy that radiates up of him. A feeling of nausea pains my innards as the boy steps out of the shadows set of the witch. Doe's breast catches and her arms shake around me. They hold onto me like a lifeline. The light from above creates harsh shadows over the boy's enraged features. You insolent child! Do you understand what you've done? The boy bursts his teeth in a sneer. He circles around the bed with his hands behind his back, like a viper taking its time to stalk its prey before it strikes. My hair is flattering from the threat in his venomous stare. I turn my head, trying to keep him in my line of sight, but his body flickers through the shadows like a specter. One moment he appears normal, the next moment the pristine white skull of a wolf decorates the upper part of his face. He really is a witch as well. The boy raises his hands to his head and curls into himself. I was so close! We could have had everything again! Dove leans forward and tightens her arms around me. We don't need her. The boy snaps to her direction. Wrong! I need her! The boy begins to pace back and forth, water slushing at his feet. My brows furrow. I crane my neck to look onto the ground again. The black liquid now gurgles and splashes against the frame of the bed as it slowly climbs higher and higher. This is no good at all. So what? We'll be fine. I can hear Dove start to snibble above me. The child whips around and grabs the two posts of the foot of the bed. I hear them crack under his grip. I will not be fine. Dove breathing turns ragged. To think you would betray her so. Dove hiccups and hides her face in my neck. You know of the expectations she had for you. I suppose she would be so proud of what you've done. I hear Dove gasp. She would really love what we should become. So wicked, all on your own. The boy's face twists into a wry smile. I can hear the wooden post under the boy's hands start to splinter. Soon after, something begins to slither up from the dark waters. Tendrils of oily black vines coil up from the frame of the bed and slowly crawl towards us. Swords, resembling long and sharp needles, spike out from them. The boy's face suddenly falls into despair and his face drop. If she hadn't become so greedy, I wouldn't have had to do what I did. I watch his expression turn sour before his head snaps back up to glare at Dove with his glassy eyes. She is all I have! The post breaks in half. Dove throws herself over me as the broken wood is swallowed by the rising ebony lake around us, creating a deafening splash. Dove's cold body trembles and I feel anger swell at me like dark waves. Does Dove truly mean nothing to him? I start to growl. The boy glares viciously at Dove. Now you've made things considerably more difficult. Do you know how much more we will have to pay to bring Hypatia back? This is not fine at all, Dove. I hear Dove break into a sob, then a snap. I tear out of her arms and lash out at the boy with a snarl. The boy stumbles back slightly in surprise, but manages to respond with a dark scowl. You! Dove's breath hitches behind me when the boy starts to lift his arms. I think I've tolerated you disrupting my home for long enough. I stand my ground, and my throat rumbles. I bend my knees to prepare my attack as bloody patterns begin to manifest on the back of his hands. Then, in a single blink, we are back in Dove's room, with the curtains in her canopy back in place. The boy spins around. I hear glass crunch under his feet. His enraged expression melts into confusion as he faces the window. And then, a sound thunders through the entire mansion. I freeze as the chime of the grandfather clock pierces the air. The heavy metal clang makes the air around us tremble and painfully reverberates inside my skull. My body submits to the overwhelming sound and my tail goes between my legs. The boy's hands fly up to cover his ears. The hell? The boy groans out in agony. Black veins begin to spread from the dark markings around the boy's eyes. I can see blood dripping start to drip from his nose. He staggers back and brings a hand up to swipe at the blood. His eyes widen in shock when he sees it coating his fingers. I can see the window beyond the curtains of the canopy, but for just a fraction of a second, I swear I see the red light that spills into the room flicker like a mysterious shadow. Shit! The boy cups the bottom of his nose, then makes long strides toward the door in a hasty exit. He pauses at the threshold of the broken door, then places his hands on the frame. Red loops in the back of his hand as a magic circle forms an overriding complete spell etched onto his skin. You will stay in here, and out of my way. Dove lets out a panic gasp. No! Dove bounces off the bed and throws herself to the door, just as it vanishes with the boy on the other side. Dove slants against the blank wall that now stands where her door used to be. I hop off the bed and try to avoid the paint-covered glass all over the floor. A breeze brushes against my fur. It's coming from the window. I take a peek outside. There's no longer anything separating us from the outside elements. The glass panes of the windows have been completely shattered, and now Dove's paintings lie in scattered pieces across the floor. Somewhere else in the house, the grandfather clock continues its booming toll. Time flows so much faster when you can hear its presence. When it was quiet, I felt like I had permission to think it had been frozen, put on hold, so that when it once again resumes, everything that had happened in its absence wouldn't count as real. The disturbing clanging finally stops, but the sound of trickling continues mercilessly. I look over and Dove runs her hands over the smooth wall where her door used to be. Her hands drop. Without making the sound, she stands and turns to face the massive glass on the floor. Streaks of dried black tears and red blotches paint her cheeks. Her eyes scan the glass and the windows warily. It's like she's just become completely numb to everything. I whimper. Dove leans down, picks up a shard of glass, and clenches her fist around it. The glass slices into her palm, sending Dove into a state of shock. I tilt my head in concern. Did she think it wouldn't cut her? Her head twists on her neck, and she searches around the room for something, but all she finds is silence. My brows press together as I observe her strange actions. Then something clicks in my mind. I remember seeing her do something like this before. After Babel had left, Dove looked for her, just like she does now. Dove's eyes drop to the ground as she releases the shard, her arms falling at her sides. Oh, I'm alone now. My eyes slowly blow wide open. She drops into the floor in a heap, and her eyes turn into a dull blue as she retreats into the darkest corners of her mind. It's the last safe place she has. All because of me. Each ghost was a decoration that hit the bars of the birdcage Dove calls home. Despite the fact that they had been running away long before I'd arrived. One by one, I ripped them down, forcing her to see this space for the cold, empty prison cell it truly is. It's because of the ghosts themselves that she was able to find comfort, despite being in a place so depraved of that. Without them, what does she have? I look around the room and analyze every little detail. The books, the plants, the drawings, the monsters. Everything Dove has done since I first met reveals everything I had to know about her. Dove has never tried to get out. She'd already settled into the discomfort. I feel my fur bristle. Dove had lived with the monsters like she was one of them. She must think she truly is one, after being treated like one for so long. She's been convinced that she is something that belongs to the night, hidden away, locked away. Something undeserving of love and care. No, something that can only be loved by things that are as terrible as she is. Dove's father had locked her cage from the outside, and she had locked it from the inside. The ghosts were her distractions. That's all Dove has ever done. Distract herself so nothing needs to change. If she's distracted, she won't focus on the things she truly yearns for. She won't think of how she wishes things were better. For Dove, the path of improvement starts with a steep decline. She now stands at the top of the hill, looking down, completely scared out of her wits. There are two options at this point for her. She can either stay at the top, where the air is cold and thin, or she can walk forward into the unknown. It's an extreme choice to make, but maybe if I stay by her side, she will have the courage to make the right one. There's no love for her here, and Dove must think there is none for her outside of these walls either. I will love Dove, so much that I will overflow with it. I'll have enough love to last us lifetimes. I'll be the first to love Dove when she is free, and I won't be the last. But how do I convince her of that? Love is just a word. It can be empty, heavy, easy to say, or impossible to say. It means nothing when there is no foundation under it to bear its weight. Love. Sometimes it's not enough, sometimes it's too simple, sometimes it's too complicated. To say you love or loved can mean so many different things to whoever hears it. So how can I define what my love means for Dove? How can I prove to her that this feeling I have is hers to have, to take, to use, to consume, to devour? If I were to cut out my heart and serve it to her on a platter to feast on, I still don't think that would be enough. I take a deep breath and calm the frantic beating in my chest. Maybe nothing will be different on the outside. After all, there's no such thing as a normal childhood for children like us. When other kids were playing in the creek to catch crayfish, I could only watch from the distance. The last time I tried to play with them, they ran away. They knew who I was. What I was. Their parents would have told them, warned them to stay away. Not plainly, no. That wouldn't be effective. What is more powerful than the curiosity of a child? Not many things, I think. Wouldn't I know that best? They needed to be creative to keep their children away from beasts like us. To them, we are folklore, songs, scary stories to be told at bedtime. Our nails are iron, our teeth are sharp, our eyes can curse, our voices can steal, our blood can burn. And, I suppose everything I've been through, their right to be terrified. We truly are nightmares brought to life. We are nightmares that pierce the veil of safety so we can walk outside in the daytime amongst them. We don't even look that different though, at least not at first. Maybe if no one looks too closely. Dove could pass off as one of them, so she could be accepted into their care. My heart clenches at the thought. No, that would be impossible. Witches themselves try so hard to smother the magic in their own children, and their throat only makes them yearn for it more. The witchling is born starved, not for food or affection, but for the other. And that's why we can never be mistaken for human. We wear our hunger for magic on our sleeves. Anyone would be able to instantly tell that we are not the same. After everything that's happened, to try and contain Dove, even outside the wall of the mansion, would be too cruel. If Dove cannot be loved for who she is, what would all this effort be for? I looked to my side. Near me, Dove wraps her arms around her knees and hides her face. You have to leave this place. Not without you. My eyes sweep over the scattered shards of glass and the paintings that have been separated into parts like puzzle pieces. I start to push large pieces together until the paintings align, not really considering the reason of my actions. Dove's eyes watered and she tried to push me away from the glass. Stop! You'll get hurt! Don't bother yourself, they're just stupid drawings. I wince when a shard cuts into the fleshy pad of my paw, but I do not stop. You made them. How can they be stupid? My bleeding paw leaves little red marks on the floor as I continue rearranging the broken glass. As the paintings are slowly reformed, I take note of what they are. The long slims of Siri, the flowing train of mycelium from Babel, the many hands of Odette, the sharp elbows of Grell. Dove had even painted the trailing gore of her mother's ghost. Their images became laid out before me, cried out by swirling brushstrokes. Dove uncurls her arms, and leans forward on her palms. Her fingers reach out and tentatively brush against the glass. My paws sting with cuts and leave smudges of red on the floor. As Dove admires the fractured paintings, an idea forms in my head. As I burst into action, I wonder how I had never thought of to do this before. I press my bloody paw onto the floor and work hastily. I get even more chunks of glass embedded into my paw, but I'm numb to the pain at this point. I bark to get Dove's attention. She turns her head slowly. Then I watch her shock begin to take over her features. Dove's lips move, not speaking, simply mouthing the words I've written on the floor. Her eyes grow watery. You. I hop and press little red paw prints against her dress. I then hop back down and tuck my chin into my chest to point at myself. And me. I move to stand behind the word I've written and my tail swings side to side. Friends! Oh! Written in blood and all. Which has to mean something, right? It doesn't matter if the word disappears, the blood will cling to every tiny grain in the wood, and to the very essence of this house, even after it's long gone. This world This word is my gift to Dove. For the fireworks, for the safety, for letting me meet her. It can't be taken back. You are my friend, Dove, and I am yours. Until the world is nothing but memory dust floating through time. Dove's lips begin to wobble. We're friends? My tail wags. I nod my head slowly and hold her eyes in mine fiercely. Dove sniffles and wipes at her eyes. Then she asks me a question that catches me completely off guard. What's your name? My eyes grow wide. A wave of emotion goes through me. My whole body suddenly feels like it's been strung tight. My name? My head bows and I stare at the floor. I swallow a gulp, then drag my bloody paw along the boards. But on Dove's eyes consider what I've written. She stares at my name with wonder, before flickering her gaze to me. Basil? I feel my breath get knocked out of my lungs. I blink rapidly to fight off the wave of sadness. I didn't know I would miss hearing my own name so much. It feels like a piece of my true self has been returned to me. I miss it so much. The sound of my grandmother calling my name. Whether it was affection or discipline, I miss it all. Dove lets out a small hiccup, and the well inside of her begins to overflow. Tears fall down her cheeks, the sun shines and the obsidian streaks like starlight. She surges forward and throws her arms around my neck. I desperately wish I could also shed my own tears, but my feelings are trapped inside of this body. I can do no more than softly whimper out my sorrows. Oh! Dove sobs into my fur and wipes at the snot that leaks from her nose. Oh, Basil! My heart jumps at the sight of the way she says my name. My eyes close and I nuzzle my head against her, freezing in the way she smells like old books and withered lilacs to hide the smell of decay that clings to everything in this house. Dove cries her heart out. I begin to wonder if she'll cry herself to death. I think she has enough tears hoarded away to cry endlessly. Eventually, though, her wheels start to wane into quiet sniffles. I jump when my ears pick up the sound of something clinking. Dove's fingers clutch the leaf charm of my necklace. It suits you even more than I imagined. I look up at Dove, and she smiles softly before turning her head towards the broken glass. Dove pulls back away from me and looks to her side. It's not done yet. My gaze swings to the empty section above the paintings of the monsters. The other parts were easy to fit together because I could recognize the creature, but some sections were difficult to piece together. Dove moves to kneel before the unfinished section with her back to the window. She leans over the pieces and starts to place the missing parts together. Her hands move confidently to stitch the fragments together. I suppose it makes sense that she is far more familiar with her paintings. When she's done, she leans back. The completed painting finally sits before me. I tilt my head in bewilderment as I take it in. I've never seen this creature before. The longer I gaze upon it, the more unsettled I start to feel. The painting is a shadow of humanoid. It's devoid of details or anything that can help me identify it. The most unique thing about it is the spread of bat-like wings and the long clawed fingers that stretch out, as if beckoning you to come closer. Are they real, or just a figment of Dove's imagination? Oh no, I've run out of water. A strong breeze chills me. Dove twists her neck to look behind her. Her hair flies around her like leaves in the wind. I notice her gaze catch onto something, and delicately pat over to the window. A single rose stands on the seat in front of the window. There is nothing to hold it up. Something enchants it to stand perfectly straight as if it's a piece of glass. The petals are white as snow, like the ones in the rooftop garden. My instincts are screaming at me to stay away from it, but Dove moves like clockwork before I can stop her. When it comes to roses, people typically avoid its thorns. There usually isn't a need to stay clear of the soft petals, but I would caution that these ones stay admired from a distance. Dove brings the tip of her finger to the cluster of tiny teeth that line each petal. The petals waste no time snapping shut around the offered flesh. Dove wrenches her hand back with a gasp and a small ring of teeth marks wrap around her fingers. We both watch as her blood starts to soak through each petal until the rose bleeds into a vibrant red. Where did it come from? My muscles are tense. A noise makes me jump. My eyes snap to the outside of the window. It almost sounded like the flap of wings. My gaze darts from the trees to the sky in search, but nothing stands out. Was it just my imagination? I look to Dove, and her eyes are completely fixed on the rose with an expression I cannot read. We remained trapped in Dove's room for days. At first, we were desperate to find a way out. To be trapped in this box with nothing but books and our wits, I was afraid we would go mad. But eventually, we decided to just start waiting. Well, Dove decided waiting would be the best course of action, and I howled about it until I was too tired to continue howling. She had a plan, and I didn't like it one bit. As we wasted away, warm meals and fresh water would appear in the room, but Dove would only touch the water. Worry takes a bite out of me every time I see how much more tired and frail she becomes. We could still hear the ticking from the grandfather clock, and I counted every second painstakingly to track how much time has passed. On the 259-200 the door reappears, and the witch walks through it. Dove looks up from her place amongst her book towers. The witch steps into the room and places a hand on his hip. He looks down at Dove and gives her a smile. Up you get, darling. It's time to get ready for dinner. Dove looks like she's dressed for a funeral. After finally being freed from the confines of Dove's room, I watch as she was dragged into the kitchen and placed into a steaming copper rub to be scrubbed clean. The witch makes no comment when she catches a glimpse of the thin cuts up and down her arms before she shoves him into the water. Then, like she's nothing more than a doll, she is buttoned up in an all-black dress. It's far more fancy than anything I've seen her wear before. To be wrapped up so formally, I fear for what the occasion must be. All the candles that had covered the dining room table have been cleared away. The linen has been replaced with a fresh one, and all 3 chairs have been uncovered. On top of the table now sits platters and plates of exquisite food. Fruits polished to a mirror-like shine, free of any blemishes, steaming meats with 6 sauces, mixed vegetables. The food is enticing. It's suspicious, but part of me still hopes that Dove will hide away a plate for me after this no dogs allowed event is over. I can feel saliva start to pool in my mouth from the temptation of the smell alone. And after not eating for days, I can't imagine how Dove is faring as she sits opposite of her father. Candles flicker and crackle along the room, while a storm rages against the window outside. I sit in the hallway, peering into the room through a gap in the doorway. Music plays faintly on the side, filling the awkward silence. Dove hasn't said a word. She sits kneeling with her hands on top of one another on her lap, while her eyes try to set the empty chair next to her father ablaze. The witch takes a long sip of the rich dark liquid in his wine glass and sets it down with a tap. He looks just as worried as Dove does. His skin dulled has a lifeless gray, and the mark around his eyes has sunken even deeper and darker. His eyes flick around the room almost anxiously. The candle pops loudly behind him, and I see his shoulders jump. He twists his neck to quickly look behind him, and my head tilts slightly. Surely that didn't actually frighten him. Why is he scared? Why is he scared? I can feel my nerves start to fray from his strange behavior. He blinks and composes himself once more, before turning his gaze to Dove and clears his throat. I'm sorry you've been locked away for so long. I feel my lip curl over my teeth. Is he sorry about her bedroom door or the mansion doors? I see Dove's eyes blink at me from the corner of my eye, before she acknowledges the witch's apology, to which she doesn't. Dove's eyes fall to the covered plate in front of her. She reaches for her fork and holds it up, ready to finally eat. The witch holds up a hand. Not yet. Dove bottom lip just out in disappointment. She drops her fork with a clam and slumps in her seat. The witch swirls his wine. Don't forget grace, my dear. We can't eat until the devils have blessed our meal. Dove crosses her arms over her rumbling stomach. Tell me, what have you been reading lately? I lay my head on my paws on her quietly. What hasn't she been reading? Dove turns her head to stare out at the rain that taps against the window. Nothing you would find interesting. Indulge me, I'm curious. Dove takes a deep breath. I was going through a collection of work by one writer. His name was Loeb, or something along those lines. The witch leans his head on his palm and takes a sip of his wine. Yes, I'm familiar with him. He sets the wine glass down. Not quite my cup of tea, I'll admit, but I do find some of his words quite captivating. One of them being, I was never really insane. The witch looks at Dove expectantly. She blinks and looks down at her lap with the slightest hint of redness in her cheeks, except upon occasions when my heart was touched. Dove's fingers tangle together on her lap, and I see the witch give her a small smile. Ah, you're definitely a fan of his works already, I see. More red stains Dove's cheeks, and she sinks lower in her chair. The witch opens his mouth to continue the conversation when he suddenly shoots down from his chair. Dove startles just as I do when his chair falls to the floor with a clatter. Loud clatter, I'm assuming. My heart pounds and my ears stand on high alert. What on earth? I rise up from the floor and I bend my elbows, ready to burst into the room if need be. I peek out from the edge of the tablecloth and see the witch stagger back a step, with his cold mask now over his eyes. His eyes are glued to the windows. I switch my gaze over to them and see nothing. This family seems to be very good at seeing things that are not in plain view. I'm convinced this house is haunted by far more than just ghosts, especially considering the fact that we personally sent most of them departing. In less than a blink, the witch's mask is dissolved and he resets his chair back to the way it was. I catch a glimpse of his forearm and see as much of red. He used magic. I would like to point out that in like the first chapter or the second one, there is a reflection of Dove that is like her but fucked up. But for what? The answer comes in the sound of light knocking. Hidden in the shadows of the dining room are hints of movement and flashes of strings. I swallow. Dove sits stiffly in her chair and doesn't acknowledge the new unwelcomed audience. The witch returns to his seat, picks up his glass, and finishes his wine to the dregs. He sets the empty glass on the table and starts to rub his temples. I apologize. I seem to be seeing things lately. Dove says nothing and avoids looking at him. Her father sighs warily, then grabs a bottle of wine to refill his glass. Let's go on a trip. Just you, me, and Hypatia. Oh, no. Dove's head snaps up to look at her father. He finishes pouring the wine and sets it down with a tap that makes Dove flinch hard. It's been a long time since you left this place, hasn't it? The witch's mouth forms a thin line. We'll go somewhere nice, then. The three of us. Everything has been prepared to bring her back. He holds a bowl of his wine glass and considers the deeply colored contents. I just need... The witch's brow furrows together. He seems to be hesitating on what to say. One last thing. Dove looks at her father like he's grown 6 heads. Shock and fury crosses her features until her eyes burn bright with betrayal. Her eyes prick with tears, but she does not let them fall. Dove's eyes drop down on the covered plate in front of her. The witch rises from his seat swiftly and begins to make his way over to Dove's end of the table. In the air, I start to smell the notes of something sour. I watch Dove nervously. I wanted to celebrate. Dove is as white as the linen on the dining table by the time he stands beside her. He places his hand on top of Dove's plate cover. Tonight. Dove's mouth falls open like a marionette. We will finally be whole again. A single black tear slides down her cheek. I made your favorite. He starts to lift the cover off. Violet. I jump when the witch suddenly flies back and drops the lid with a mind-rattling clang. My ears fall, and a veil is torn away. A curls smell invades my senses and makes me reel back from my place at the dining room entrance. When I look, I see that all the food on the table has decayed, with patches of mold dusting near every surface. Oh no. Flies zip around the food, and maggots wiggle and fall into the table in clumps. I force down the need to retch, especially when I lay eyes on Dove's favorite food. I think it might be a little undercooked, considering it's still wriggling and rising on her plate. Dove wears a blank expression as she stares down at the leeches. I can even begin to fathom what passes through her head as she picks up her fork and knife and starts cutting up her meal. The witch stumbles away in disgust and backs up against the window. Dove takes her time slicing a leech into pieces. Blood leaks out from its lifeless body and pulls on her plate. Her face is frighteningly calm as she picks up a gory chunk gracefully with a fork. I can see the witch watch in horror as she begins to raise it to her mouth. I can tell what he's anticipating more as he makes no move to stop her, because he observes her like a life experiment. Knowing what I know of Dove, there are 2 possibilities for what she might do. 1, she sets her fork back down after nothing more than a disturbing bluff. And 2, she eats the raw leech. If he was hoping for the former come true, Well, then he doesn't know what kind of daughter he raised. Dove chews slowly, carefully. Eating leeches can be risky. If they're still whole and alive when you eat them, there's a high likely chance that they will latch their teeth onto your internal organs. And if you are unable to remove them, they will drink your blood until they're swollen and blocking your airways. After Dove swallows, the witch makes the sign of the cross, the devil's version, which is just the inverse of the holier version. His hands tremble as he does it. Now his expression mirrors Dove's state of shock from earlier. It's true. You are one of theirs. One of theirs? Lightning illuminates the sky behind the witch. For the fraction of a second, I swear I see the silhouette of something among the clouds, but there's no time to dwell on it. The witch wears a solemn expression as he stares down at Dove. It has to be you. Dove's head turns until her eyes land on me. My heart beats erratically. Her mouth forms the word go. It's now. I gulp. Or never. I turn down the hallway and hear a whooshing sound as every candle light in the house is extinguished. I hear Dove gasp and the entire mansion groan. Then one by one in the dark, red eyes blink into existence until the hallway is speckled with them. First, I freeze when I hear the voice of the boy come from right behind me. I will deal with you. I immediately break into a room. Please don't get hurt, Dove. I break into the study and heave as I catch my breath. My feet sprint over to the shelves and knock over books and bottles. I dig through jars of ambiguous preserved objects, searching high and low for secrets. Dove said that if there is a key to how the witch comes and goes out of the mansion, it would be in here and nowhere else. She never tried to look for it all these years because she did not have a reason to leave, until now. The mansion consumes so much magic to do everything it does, which limits how much is available for him to use. He wouldn't waste energy when he's been using so much of it to research how to revive my mother first, and keep me in prison second. Dove looks away for a moment. Even then, with all the magic he devours, there is scarcely any left. Dove's eyes glaze over and she stares blankly at the air that surrounds us. When there is barely anything else, he uses the blood caps. I don't know a thing about my father, but I know my father. My heart tugs as I remember the plan Dove had devised. I finally have the privilege of having his attention all to myself. While you find the thing that will open this man's doors, I leap onto a stool and claw my way onto the table that stands in the middle of the room. My eyes rake through small bowls of crushed herbs, stacks of journals, and hastily written notes, but nothing resembles what could be the key that unlocks these walls. It has to be here somewhere. I use the height of the table to my advantage and drag my gaze through every corner of the room. Maybe there's a button or something. A map? I sift through my own memories. Feels like a clue is already within me, but it refuses to surface. The rattle of chains disrupts my line of thinking, then something in my mind clicks. My ears twist on my head, following the sound, then my eyes land on it. Sitting on the witch shrine shines a silver cerebral. Strings of delicate chains drape off the edge, and purple smoke curls out of the incense holder. My nose sucks up a woody, spicy scent, and suddenly I'm pulled back to the very first day. I remember the smell and the sound of chains moving in a controlled motion. The key. I have no doubt about it. This has to be it. I jump off the study table and bolt for the witch shrine. I'm just inches away from stamping my teeth around the hanging chains when the eyes of every skull in the shrine come to life. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. I skid to a halt as a red glow materializes in the once lifeless shadows as the skull's eye sockets. Suddenly, it feels like I have the weight of 1,000 eyes upon me. Their voices strike me like lightning, all screaming out for the same thing. Alexius! The floorboards underneath me tremble from the fury that comes from the shrine. My heart completely drops into the acid of my stomach. Then another scream has me spinning. Basil! My ears pick up the sound of footsteps coming closer to the study. A set of light ones and heavy ones. I panic. My eyes jump between the cerebral and the door. I don't know. I feel like if the cerebral is the key, and we grab it, it might activate and leave Dove behind. I think we need to go to Dove. I find Dove wandering the halls, frantically searching for me. When she sees me, she sucks in a sharp breath and starts to rush over to me. I thought he got you. I couldn't distract him for long enough. I'm sorry. I wanted to find you before he did. Her eyes crawl over me. Did you find anything? My tail wags and I start to nod eagerly. Then I remember that I had left the cerebral behind and the study was the witch. My ears flop and Dove chews on her lip. You know where it is? I look up at her and nod, feeling shameful that I wasn't able to retrieve the cerebral fast enough. She gives me a soft smile. Then we'll get it together. Those words stroke a fire within me. She stands tall and puts on a brave face as she starts to head back together. I lead the way on hurried feet. Those footsteps start to follow me, then I hear them stop. I paused and look back in confusion. Dove looks at the ropes of black string that wrap around her, then gives me one last look of terror before the strings rip her away from me and down the darkness of the hallway. Oh, fuck. No! Her screams found in my ears and the house swallows her. In the chilling silence follows, I hear chains. Looking for this, doggy. I turn my head and capture just a glimpse of the boy before he melts into the darkness. I twist my neck, trying to follow the phantasmal movement that stalked me in the gloom. We might be getting the bad ending. I really hope not. Oh god, I really hope we get the good ending. Please let me give me the true ending. Please don't give me the bad ending. I can hear the chains of the terrible swinging and smell the smoke that escapes it, but all around me is nothingness. The sound of the chains move back and forth like a pendulum. Time to play a little game. I twirl around and come face to face with the boy, crouching down to my level. He gives me an ear-to-ear grin. Basil. My heart almost explodes in my chest. He reaches towards me and I hold my breath. His hand wraps around my snout and gives me a rough pull. His vermilion eyes deepen until they're almost black and he glares down at me. Tack, you're it. I glance down at the cerebral in his hand and break for it. My attempt to reclaim the incense holder means nothing but air. The boy melts into the shadows once again. Then his voice bounces up the walls from every direction, rendering it impossible to pinpoint its source. Catch me, and maybe you can have your prize. The sound of clinking chains starts to vanish down the hall. I inhale deeply, then exhale. Then I start to chase it. I swear, past, present, and future, there will never be a single version of these hallways that does not cover my hatred. I pant as I reach a dead end in the hallway. The labyrinth has almost started to become familiar to me, but now it's as if everything has been reset back to nonsense. I retrace my steps back to set of diverging halls. I pick up the sound of chains coming from the left, but from the right there is another sound. My chest tightens. I don't have time for this. Left is a cerebral, right is another sound. I tiptoed down the right hallway and the sound I've come to investigate was clearer. I recognize what awaits me from the sound alone. The dull clink of fluttering velvet wings against glass makes my ears stand up straight. In the dark, the bioluminescent red wings of those moths flash within the jar that traps them. It sits mysteriously right in the middle of the floor, like a lantern floating in the middle of the sea. I dare to think it had been placed here just for me to find, because on finding there is still little coincidence to the strange that occurs here. My head spins and I search for whoever or whatever could have left the moths here, for all I find is eerie emptiness. I stare down the jar in contemplation, then I wrap my jaws around the glass and carefully pick it up. Perhaps it's a sign of a divine intervention, but a terrible feeling tells me something more wicked is brewing here. My pace quickens as I continue to search for the boy. I'm panting heavily when I finally come to a stop again. After a series of running through doors, finding dead ends, and leaping through perilous gaps in the floors, I find myself face to face with a hidden door, the one I've slipped through a handful of times by now. It's held wide open for me, beckoning me to enter. I sneak into the greenhouse and wrench paws from the rain and keep my body low to the ground. When I had first walked into the greenhouse, it was bursting with color and life. The rose bush was a shard of the night sky that had fallen down to earth. Now there is not a star that remains amongst the withered rings of vines and leaves. My heart mourns its loss. It was as grand as it was monstrous in its desire for blood, but I still found it no less lovely. When it still stood in all its grandness, I have found Dove at the base of the rose bush. But now, as it's most lifeless, I find the witch. He holds something in his hand, and he brings it to his mouth. Blood caps. It almost looks like crystallized gore. Its glow does not dull, even in a dehydrated state. Streaks of light pierce through the witch's fingers as if he were folding a piece from the sun. A derived mushroom crunches loudly between his teeth. and when he swallows, the boon of the blood caps brings him to his knees. His body seizes and his legs look up, dropping him to the tilted floor. A wet cough clogs up his throat, and his body shakes in a way that looks painful. Bro, I'm so hungry. I'm sorry, I'm so hungry. He gasps for air. A glowing cloud of red light pulses over his body briefly. When the violent effects of the blood cap finally start to settle, the witch wipes his mouth and moves until he is kneeling in front of a small bundle of withered flowers. I watch as he digs into the pocket of his trousers and produces out a small notebook. He snaps it open with a flick of his wrist. A chunk of chalk is wedged between the pages. Immediately he draws out a magic circle on the floor before the dead flora. A gust of wind blows into the greenhouse and swirls through the space, sweeping the scent of wood and spice into my nose. I slowly move around, watching the witch's back intensely until discernible comes into view. The moss jar crawls between my teeth, seems to burst with vigor the closer I get to the witch. The silver censer sits at the witch's side. I can feel my blood rushing through my veins, and I move in. The air shimmers with magic when the witch activates the magic circles he's drawn. I catch a glimpse of hooded purple flowers blooming back to life. Then a twig snaps under my paw. Oh, fuck. The witch's head snaps in my direction. Up close, I can see his bloodshot scarlet eyes behind his full mask and the sheen of sweat over his pale skin. He glances down at the cerebral at my feet. Then I throw down the jar of carnivorous moss onto the floor with every scrap of my might. The witch shells out as a cloud of red wings explode right in his face. The sound of high-pitched chirping vibrates through the air and makes my ears go flat to my head. There are far more moss than what was contained, but I take it as a magical blessing. I dive for the discernible between the chaos. As soon as I have the chains of discernible between my teeth, the creaking of the moss vanish. I throw my head back, then shrink back in terror. The boy stands before me, jaw clenched in a sneer. Every moss that had attacked the witch had been incinerated and now falls to the floor in ashes. The boy holds his fist off. The magic circle on the back of his hand oozes blood, dripping down past his wrist. His image wavers as the witch rises to his full height behind him. He raises both arms and spreads them like wings. Red magic circles blossom over his both skin, simultaneously with the witches. The floor beneath me lurches and trembles, making me stumble on shaking legs. I hear two voices merge into one. You will not be leaving this place alive. Or dead. That's a sick-ass fucking CG. I clench my jaw around the chains of the discernible. The boy's sick, twisted grin merges with the witch's rageful expression, like parting smoke as he takes a step towards me, brimming with magic. The entire mansion rumbles as I dodge creeping vines, rushing away from the witch and out of the greenhouse on slippery tiles. When I'm back inside, I throw myself through the hidden door and roll onto the floor. Rain soaks my fur and my vision spirals. My senses take a moment to return to me, and when they do, a noise pounds against my skull. The grandfather clock lets out a blaring toll that rings down the halls. I release a shaky breath and squint at how bright everything is now. It's like I've stepped into a completely different house. The walls bleed a red so bright it strains my eyes. Crimson runs down the windowless panels, making space feel like it's closing in on me with every toll of the clock. In addition, my whole body tenses as I look up at the ceiling. Suddenly I miss having shadows to blend into. Maybe then I wouldn't feel so exposed to the bone white faces of the dolls that hang in tangles of strings. I instinctively try to lower myself to the floorboards. The blood that comes from them is sticky and warm. Wood and bone rattle above me in reaction to the sound of discernible's chains clinking. The chains will attract their attention. My mind starts to spiral. I feel every time of the clock bells like a flash. Maybe I can match its swing to the bell. I straighten my neck and hold my head up a little higher. Every time I heard the witch use discernible, it sounded like it was swung in a controlled rhythm. Iron clangs from the top of the spiral staircase. I have to find Dove now. I slowly move forward, then start winging discernible. Click the symbol before the time. Fuck my life. Well, I did turn off the timer thing, but I don't know if it's gonna happen. Purple smoke swirled around me, and like a parted curtain in the halls I had walked through that very first night revealed themselves. I slowly moved forward and continued my search for Dove, and desperately tried to not think about the wood that creaks behind me. Above me, the joints of the dog clicks with every unnerving twitch. I try to keep my heartbeat steady, my present non-existent, but a strange noise from above almost makes my paws tangle beneath me. It's all your fault. I pretend I don't hear it. Oh my god. My jaw aches, but I continue to push onwards. Dove is so close I can feel it, and the footsteps behind me are as well. The dolls above seem to be growing restless. He this here for you. They look for me vigilantly. It's a terrible idea, but I hasten my pace of the swinging cernable. Don't do this to me, don't do this to me, don't do this to me. My nerves are wound so tight I feel like the pressure in my chest is on the verge of imploding. Quickly save it, quickly save it, quickly save it, quickly save it. Oh god. But I hear her. My ears pick up those small sobs behind the door. The smoke materializes it before me. My heart leaps with relief. We can finally leave together. A noise halts my steps. I step so abruptly that I drop discernible. The sound of someone tearing. Oh god, burns my blood into ice. It's not paper, not fabric that is torn, it's something much more terrifying. It is space itself, forced apart, shredded, broken and parted, allowing something to come through. The door that bars me from reaching door explodes in a massive splinters. I duck into the floor as debris showers me. Down the hall, every other door follows the same pattern. I force myself to look up through sawdust that pricks my eyes. Dove cowers on the floor, shielding her head with her arms from the wood that had rained down on her from the explosion. I can see her palms smeared with blood. Then I look down at the floor before her. I can faintly make out smudges of crimson under the debris. Dark tears drip down Dove's cheeks as she stared at something with wide eyes. The smell of sulfur pierces through the air, and the growls continue. The growls come. My body trembles in horror. I prayed I would never have to hear them again. The sounds that come from inside the room are the exact same ones that had started this entire nightmare. I hear the tap of sharp nails on the floorboards and jerk back from the door. Bile threatens to crawl up my throat, my ears like back, and my tail crawls between my legs. No, it can't be. Dove looks so small compared to the shadow that stretches over her. I failed. I found you, little wolf. I turn my head slowly. No. I cower back from the witch and the growls that come from Dove's room. I feel my whole body go numb with defeat. Dove cries out as the creature moves for her and the witch's arms light up with spells. He clenches his teeth and blood runs down his nose. Infernal tunnels blow out from the palms of his hands. The creature launches itself at Dove and meets the witch's flames. It burns into nothing, and I only watch helplessly as Dove crawls away from the violence until she's curled up against the wall. When the beast is nothing but ashes, the witch casually steps over the cinders and walks over to his daughter. Come now, little one. They're gone now. He beckons her towards him, and I watch as she throws her arms around his shoulders and cries into them. The witch picks Dove up in his arms, then moves towards me. The wave of nausea rolls through me. I have to run. Step back and I feel something dig into my flesh. I look down and see black threads wrap around my body. I cry out and try to pull away from it, but it ensnares me completely like a web. I look down to polished shoes and whimper. I raise my gaze up to Dove in desperation. She looks at me through tear-streaked eyes, then looks away. Oh, my ears completely flatten. It's over. The witch reaches for something behind me. In an instant I see a flash of a dagger. Don't worry. Your death will be of great use to me. My love. Finally, after so long, you're back. Wicked one. Come out, my darling. Guys, I think we got the bad ending. Guys, I think we got one of the bad endings. I don't know, it's just a feeling I have. We have so much work to do. I have so much to teach you. Look, Dove, this is what weakness looks like. I'll make sure you never know it. I'm gonna quickly... Hold on. Hold on. I'm gonna check something before I load anything. By the way, there's 6 bad endings. So I'm checking the ending guide. And I did 3 things that I shouldn't have done. Which unfortunately means I didn't get the good ending by 1 point. 1 singular point. That said, I do know where I need to go to get that point I missed. It is like very late. I don't know if I'll have the time to do so. But maybe if we just skip through everything. I would like, you know, to maybe... Here's the thing that where we should have gone. My teeth latch onto Dove's skirt and I dig my claws to the floorboards to anchor myself. It's no use though. Black tears drip down to Dove's chin. Odette, stop! I hear the sound of searing flesh where Odette's hand holds her fiercely. My nails start to lose their grip and I'm pulled along with them. A trip on Dove's dress is released from my grip. No, no, no. What do I do? Only one solution comes to mind. Okay, we can skip again. Save her. I won't leave. After everything we've gone through, seeing everything speed by is a little bit funny. I'm so frustrated. It was one choice I did wrong and I didn't get enough and I didn't get enough points for the good ending, man. That's honestly the only reason I'm doing this. Like, if I had gotten the bad ending and I checked the... And I had checked the, And I had checked the guide and I saw, like, I had failed, like, several more things that got me away from, like, by several things, then I would be like, oh, no, yeah, I'm not doing, like... I'm just accepting that ending, but I'm so close. 1 point. I was way by 1 point. Okay, everything else I don't see anything further, so I'm gonna do the same I did previously. Okay. I think I have to save her. Dove startles as I leap over chunks of wood until I reach her. I don't look at the beast. I slide under Dove's torso and push her up off the floor. She gasps and follows my lead and rises up on her own. My body moves completely separated from my mind as I drag Dove with me by her sleeve. We barrel down the halls, hindered by enchantments no more, until the wide open frame from the kitchen's back door is right in front of us. The witch's scream echoes through the entire mansion. Dove! The floor beneath us trembles. I see Dove's feet hesitate behind me, right at the threshold, so I get behind her and shove her through the door by throwing all of my body weight at her. We tumble outside in a messy heap. Dove scrapes her cheek on the dirt and gets Scrabble embedded on her palms. After taking a moment to recover, she looks at her scratched hands in awe. I pick up the sound of shoes heavily stomping down the stairs beside, and I get up again. Dove's neck starts to twist back, and I grab her sleeve and pull her forward. My eyes meet her watery ones. Run, Dove, and don't stop. Dove. Dove. Basil. Move a little more to the right. I roll my eyes and settle down in the grass beside Dove's flying lengths. She whines and I stifle a smile as I lift my head to shield her face from the light. She lays in the middle of a grassy hill surrounded by bugs and gnomes that flutter in the breeze. Your cheeks are burned. If you're going to fall asleep outside while reading, you should use your books to block the sun. What if I like my face feeling warm? Dove flips over onto her stomach and pouts at me. But speaking of sleep... I yelp when she reaches out and pinches my cheek. Nell told me you've been spending too many nights working and not resting. I wince at her scolding and give her a shipping smile. I just balance things out. You sleep too much. My eyes flick away. Besides, I like to stay just to make sure no monsters crawl out from under your bed. I throw her a hopefully convincing grin, then brush my knuckles against her sunburned cheeks, seeking forgiveness when I see it's not working. Dove is far too perceptive for my own good. She gives me a knowing look, then tips her nose up at me. Enough. Lie with me and enjoy the lovely weather. It feels like such a waste to spend such a nice day sleeping, though. Whoever said sleeping wasn't productive? Dove shoves my shoulder back and sits up beside me. I'll even make you a pillow to rest your weary head on. I raise a brow curiously, then feel a tickle from something growing beneath my head. My eyes shut, appreciating the plushness. Then they blow wide. I sit up so quickly my head spins. I look down at the ivy that had sprouted from completely nothing and snap my neck towards Dove. I glance at a bleeding magic circle on the back of her hand, then back up at her face. She beams at me warmly. What did you just do? I use magic? You're not a full-fledged witch. Her grin only stretches wider. I figured out the secret. I look at her incredulously. Huh? Dove shoves me back down and lies next to me, shoulder to shoulder. How? I try to sit up again, but Dove places a heavy hand on my chest. I'll tell you when you wake up. I'm not tired. Let me put you in a year-long enchanted sleep. Fine, fine. Now close your eyes and I'll treat you to a hint. I sighed and do as she says. My eyes flutter shut. A cool breeze brushes through the hair of my forehead. The heat of the sun makes my cheeks flush, and the sound of cicadas, plays like a soothing hum. I feel one of those hands intertwined with my own as she shifts closer to me. A shadow moves over my eyes. When I peek and I open, I see Dove's hand hovering over the face to block the brightness. This feeling. I feel her soft breast against my neck. I move my head to lean it against hers. This was all I needed, all along. Oh. Hey look, you're here in this book. That's the sun. Yes? You're here as well. That's a star. And... oh, Dusk and Dawn are also here. Oh! They're everywhere in these pictures, just like their fur. I swept last time. It's your turn. I know, but after, let's go for a night walk? Want to go stargazing again? Every night. We'll see you. That was so worth it. Also, this is not the true ending. I will not be doing the true ending on stream. Play the game, get the true ending on your own. It was so worth it though. Alright. I will get in the true ending on my own time. Because I gotta see what the true ending is. But generally, I think this game might become like my best game of 2024. Like, I think this was incredible. Like, genuinely, everything was so incredibly done. The fucking tenseness I felt during some of these scenes, I don't think I've even felt while playing like horror games that are like, you know, you're moving around and it's like your first POV and stuff like that. Like, I generally don't think I've felt that fucking scared before playing those games. This actually brought a chill to me in some of the instances that was horror. And yes, you, mod, will get special treatment and see the fucking true ending, you little shit. That said, to everyone else who wants to see the true ending, download the game. If you can support the creator, do so. And play through the game and experience just this. Because I'm still in awe at everything. Like, just everything. Everything. That's it. Thank you for coming. Like, subscribe, you know the drill. You know you've been on YouTube before, you know what to do. And I'll see you tomorrow for Poetry in Purgatory. We will be starting at the same time. We will not be going for as long as we did today. I just really wanted to finish the game as we did and not leave it going like till next week when we only had a little bit left. But yeah. Goodbye, everybody. And thank you for coming again. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.